Chapter 219. Diwu Qingro reached out his hand and took it. He said regretfully, "With these two things, we can save the lives of two experts at a critical moment. Yun Kuan-he, you don't have to worry about it." Then he shook the jade box and said, "This jade spirit ginseng is." Suddenly he made a sound of surprise and his eyes froze. He looked at Qing Yun Quanha and frowned. "Yun Quanha, this, no one has touched it, right?" Qing Yun Kuan-he immediately panicked and said with a pale face, "Prime Minister, is there a problem? Jade spirit ginseng is a spiritual object. Even through the jade box, one can feel its spiritual energy. Why did I not feel it this time?" Diwu Qingro asked in confusion. As he said this, Jing Menghun and the others also felt that something was wrong. "Absolutely no one touched it. This thing has always been with me." Qing Yun Kuan, he said without hesitation. Diwu Qingro weighed the jade box in his hand. He slightly lowered his head. After thinking for a while, he looked up and smiled. "It's okay. Since the thing is back, it's good. Yun Kuan-he, you must be tired. Go and rest early." As he said this, he put the jade box into his bosom without even looking at it. Then he said with a smile, "I'll keep this thing close to me." Then he smiled and said, "Everyone can go back. Buchu, you have to be busy for the next few days. Gao Xing, you have to keep a low profile during this period of time. Don't be targeted by the arbitrators. The two king-level leaders should also rest early. If you need any medicine for king-level leader Yin's injury, feel free to come and get it from me." Everyone bowed in unison and left the room. When only Diwu Qingro was left in the study room, he slowly stood up. He frowned and slowly paced back and forth. He muttered, "This matter should not have happened." He took out the jade box from his pocket. He gently opened it. Sure enough, there was no jade spirit ginseng inside. It was completely empty. Diwu Qingro looked at the empty jade box and thought for a long time. His eyes flashed. Iron Cloud Citadel. Heaven Mending Pavilion in this cold place was once again bustling with activity. But this time the people of Butian Pavilion did not complain. Instead they were happy and proud. King of Helchu. After all, he was King of Helchu. He did not fall. King of Helchu didn't fall. Then Heaven Mending Pavilion would still be Heaven Mending Pavilion. Those people who had spread rumors about King of Helchu not being able to make it, humph, are now being dealt with by us. King of Helchu is not only capable but very capable. Emptying half of the imperial court, such boldness, such a bold move. Who would dare? However, King of Helchu didn't even frown and directly attacked. Compared to the bustling Heaven Mending Pavilion, the Heavenly Armament Pavilion was noisy. After they returned, they had different opinions about Lian Fanlei. GMO believed that such a person should be ruthlessly beaten up. Beat him up so badly that even his mother couldn't recognize him. Luo Kadi thought that he should go straight to the Hua family. Gu Duxing snorted at their thoughts. Big Boss Chu thought that using power to suppress people was the best way for these people. The matter had already passed for a long time, but the people from the Heavenly Armament Pavilion were still quarreling endlessly. In the end, no one knew what happened. GMO and Luo Kadi quarreled. Originally their opinions were similar, but Luo Kadi betrayed them and stood on Chu Yang's side. He turned his head and wantonly attacked his former allies. He said that GMO was short-sighted, immature, and had a bad temper. He didn't have any self-restraint and wasn't calm at all. GMO was furious. He immediately assumed the posture of the third elder brother. Pao Zun was also furious. The two of them started to quarrel and started to wrestle with each other. Bang, bang, bang. Sounds were unceasingly heard. Chu Yang didn't have time to mediate the fight. Chu Yang smiled bitterly. Minister Chu murmured, "This young man's anger is too big. He needs to vent." He turned around and walked out. Du Yuxing followed. I left Su Butong to guard the two and continuously sneak attack them. And his sneak attack made the two fight even more fiercely. What's the next step? Gu Duxing asked. There is a plan, but I am thinking about how to proceed. Chu Yang pondered. It should be to go to Great Zhao. But the time is not ripe yet. Use the foreshadowing you left that day in the snow? Gu Duxing's eyes lit up. What time is not ripe yet? Chu Yang shook his head and sighed. The time was not the time. Chu Yang had been looking forward to the return of the second fragment of Calamity Sword. Until now there had been no news. He was now at the peak of 7th grade martial master and was about to become a martial great master. Du Xing, let's exchange pointers. Chu Yang said. Gu Duxing's eyes lit up and said, okay. During this time, he had been cultivating with all his might according to the revered Berserker sword technique. Now he was already a sword great master. Just one more step. He could enter the revered sword master realm. Gu Duxing was also looking forward to the day of his breakthrough. He still clearly remembered Chu Yang's words. The revered berserker sword technique can only help you enter the revered sword master realm as soon as possible. But after that, the revered berserker sword technique cannot be used anymore. If you use it again, it will cause your mind to be confused by the sword technique and enter madness. But at that time we have other ways to let you advance quickly. Other ways to advance quickly. Right now Gu Duxing was more eager than anyone. In daily cultivation he was also the most hardworking among them. Sometimes, the degree of his effort was so high that even Chu Yang was behind him. Because Gu Miaoling, Sister Xiao Miao, was still suffering and waiting for me to save her. Gu Duxing's heart felt like it was being fried. Please? Please. Both of them held an ordinary steel sword in their hands. Previously when they exchanged pointers they used their fists and legs. But this time Chu Yang proposed to use a sword. Although Gu Duxing was surprised, he did not think much of it. While muttering GMO, Luo Ku Disu and Butong walked out with bruises all over their faces. When they saw Gu Duxing and Chu Yang about to exchange pointers, they immediately became interested. In an instant, the three of them who were fighting like pigs, each took a small stool and squeezed together. They put their arms around each other's shoulders and looked forward to the fight. I'm coming. Chu Yang drew his sword and took the lead. His two legs crossed and suddenly rushed forward like a whirlwind. With just one move, Chu Yang's body had already become a faint shadow. Fleeting snow cloud steps. Damn. Boss has improved so fast. GMO exclaimed. The current Chu Yang. Compared to the day before when he exchanged pointers with him. How could he just improve by a level? Gu Duxing's face was cold and hard. He held his sword horizontally. His two legs did not move, but they automatically slid forward. With a clang the two swords crossed. Be careful. Chu Yang's eyes revealed a trace of a smile. Gu Duxing's martial power was much higher than his. The one who should be saying be careful should be Gu Duxing, but Chu Yang actually said it first. I know. Gu Duxing had just said these two words when he suddenly felt that something was wrong. His sword seemed to have suddenly sunk into water. Along with his whole body he also felt an abundant buoyancy. There was also a kind of blockage unique to water. He could not use any strength. It seemed that if he used any more strength, his wrist would be broken. Gu Duxing was shocked. He immediately retreated. He was puzzled. Although he controlled his martial power and tried to suppress it to a level similar to Chu Yang's. But he should not feel this way. As he retreated, the feeling became even more obvious. It was as if a raging tide had suddenly appeared in front of him, bringing with it a violent impact, an irresistible thrust, and a strong buoyancy and stickiness. It was coming at him from every direction. And Chu Yang's sword only made a slash in the air? Gu Duxing's face flushed red. He shouted and increased his martial power by 20% to block this wave of attack. Chu Yang's long sword drew a circle and retracted. The dense sword energy suddenly turned into a tranquil lake between the two of them. The soft power of water? Gu Duxing looked at Chu Yang's sword thoughtfully. Yes, it is the soft power of water. But it has not reached great success. Chu Yang said indifferently. Gu Duxing smiled bitterly. He had just used the power of a third-grade sword great master. He was still forced to be unable to attack by a seventh-grade martial master. It was like this and it still had not reached great success? Gu Duxing gently closed his eyes. He immediately felt that in front of him, there was a calm but repelling force like a lake. And Chu Yang was clearly on the other side. It really has not reached great success. Your soft power of water is too rigid. Gu Duxing roared and slashed with his sword. This is the Gu clan's wave-splitting slash. It is a sword technique that has been practiced in water. It has reached great success. With one slash it can split the oncoming wave in half. And his clothes are not wet at all. Luo Kudi's eyebrows jumped. Using the wave-splitting slash to deal with boss soft power of water is just like one thing conquering another. Not necessarily. GMO snorted. Watch, don't talk nonsense. You are as knowledgeable as a clown. Luo Kudi was furious. He was about to go up and punch. Suddenly he exclaimed, how can this be? He saw Chu Yang retreat continuously, but his sword continued to stab. Every stab brought about a different wave of energy attacking Gu Duxing. After 17 consecutive stabs, Chu Yang suddenly stopped retreating and went up to meet it. The sword in his hand seemed to have turned into a soft willow branch at this moment. It danced and went up to meet it. Gu Duxing's sword momentum, which could unleash monstrous waves, was actually useless in the face of this extremely gentle attack. He was easily enveloped by the gentle power. Gu Duxing was shocked. Chu Yang's soft power of water, under his wave-splitting slash, actually achieved a new breakthrough. He had truly mastered the characteristics of water. During this period of time, Chu Yang had been tortured thousands of times. Finally, today he achieved the most perfect result. A satisfied smile appeared on Chu Yang's face. He was about to raise his sword to attack when he suddenly had a thought. The sword spirit's voice suddenly sounded, with a hint of exclamation. You have finally understood the power of water. The power of nature is beginning to show signs. From today onwards you can use the space of calamity. Space of calamity? Chu Yang was shocked. Yes. The sword spirit sighed and said, you are the first to open the space of calamity in half a year. Chu Yang only felt a shock in his heart. In his dantian, an inexplicable and mysterious feeling suddenly rose. When he closed his eyes, he saw a mysterious space. It opened up to him. At this moment, the sword tip of the calamity sword in his dantian suddenly shook violently. Under his feet there was also an urgent calling. Chapter 220. Gu Duxing's sword actually felt Chu Yang's force field relax in this sticky feeling. He followed the flow of energy and attacked. The tip of the sword stopped in front of Chu Yang. Chu Yang's hair fluttered violently for a while. Gu Duxing was a little depressed. Who would suddenly meditate in the middle of an intense battle? If it wasn't for my control, wouldn't this sword be in trouble? But Chu Yang suddenly meditating was a fact. Gu Duxing had no choice but to change his role at once from a fighter to a protector. On a distant treetop, a man in green was so angry that his veins were almost popping out. Bastard! How could he suddenly meditate in the middle of a battle with the sword master? He's taking his life as a joke. The man in green was almost about to go down and kick this unruly guy's butt. How generous! Even though he was already far beyond their level in that situation just now, if Gu Duxing didn't stop in time, he definitely wouldn't have been able to save him. Thinking of this, the man in green was sweating all over. Before your identity is clear, you can't die. Chu Yang only felt that his mind was spinning. Suddenly, his entire spiritual power was sucked away. He suddenly felt a strange feeling of heaviness in his head. He closed his eyes and found that he seemed to be standing in a strange space. In this short period of time, the mental energy he had used up had already overdrawn him. Since his rebirth he had never felt so weak. Chu Yang forced himself to shake his head. He opened his eyes and returned to reality. He said weakly, I need to rest. Duxing, help me in. Gu Duxing was shocked. From the beginning of the battle to Chu Yang suddenly meditating, it was only a short period of time. But at this moment, even Gu Duxing could feel Chu Yang's weakness. It was as if all of his energy had been sucked out of him all of a sudden. Gu Duxing couldn't help but guess. What was Chu Yang's realization at this moment? To be able to use up so much mental energy in such a short period of time? Hearing Chu Yang's words, Gu Duxing did not dare to be negligent. He immediately carried Chu Yang on his back and rushed into Chu Yang's room at top speed. He placed Chu Yang on the bed, then immediately poured a cup of water and brought it over. After thinking for a while, he took out a few healing pills from the clan and crushed them, melting them in the water. Chu Yang gulped down the water in 2 mouthfuls. He felt refreshed. He said in a hoarse voice, I'm going to meditate for a while. Don't let anyone come in. After he said the last word, he immediately sank into deep meditation. Gu Duxing had wanted to persuade him, but seeing the situation, he had no choice but to leave quietly. How is boss? GMO and the others immediately surrounded him, their faces full of concern. Big brother may have a great realization. Gu Duxing's eyes showed that he was deep in thought as he said, no one is allowed to go in and disturb him. As he spoke, he frowned and muttered to himself, what kind of comprehension could be so powerful? Could it be the way of martial arts? GMO and the others looked at each other in amazement. The way of martial arts? Could it be the highest level of martial arts, second only to the way of heaven? Could it be that Chu Yang had comprehended this level because of the battle with Gu Duxing? The eyes of the 3 lit up like searchlights at the same time. GMO was the first to jump up excitedly. Second brother. I want to fight with you. Fifth brother, the 2 of you help protect big brother. Luo Kudi and Miao Butong rolled their eyes. What second brother? Gu Duxing was completely displeased. You should call him second brother. Your second brother. GMO said proudly as if he had taken advantage of the situation. The pleasure of taking advantage of the sharpness of the tongue. Gu Duxing was furious and said coldly, If you call me that again, I'll beat you until you become second brother. The soft kind. GMO couldn't ask for more. He laughed and teased, a wood dog ant. Dog ant. Second brother, if you have the guts, come. Gu Duxing roared angrily and rushed to the ground. The two of them rolled and rolled into a ball. Thus, this young master GMO, who also wanted to comprehend something, started to scream miserably. Chu Yang regulated his breathing for a while before he felt that his spiritual energy had recovered a little. Thinking about that feeling just now, he actually had some lingering fear. That feeling was as if his entire body was weightless and rolling in the boundless universe. It was a terrifying feeling that he couldn't control himself at all. After calming himself down, he calmed his mind and immersed himself in that wonderful state again. As expected, when he opened his mind, a weightless feeling immediately attacked him. But this time Chu Yang was prepared. When this feeling came, he closed his eyes and relaxed his consciousness. The next moment he felt as if his feet were on solid ground. Then he opened his eyes. What appeared in front of him was a huge space. Or rather, it should be said that it was an empty hall. Those things that he had asked the sword spirit to collect were all piled up in a corner of the hall. This hall was more than 100 feet tall and had a radius of nearly 100 feet. It was surrounded by a hazy pink fog, and the top was also covered by pink fog. It was so hazy that one couldn't see far. In front of him, there was something that looked like a large stone tablet. It was emitting purple light and there seemed to be words engraved on it. When he stepped forward to take a look, Chu Yang could not help but be completely petrified. His mouth opened wide as he muttered to himself. Amethyst, the large stone monolith in front of him was the purple crystal. The priceless treasure of the Chongtian continent. Moreover, looking at its luster, it was not inferior to his own purple crystal jade pendant. An ordinary purple crystal the size of a fist was enough to allow a martial honor to advance by 1 rank. And the piece in front of him looked like it weighed more than 10,000 pounds. And the characteristic of the purple crystal was that after absorbing the energy inside, it would turn into a pure purple crystal jade. And these amethyst jades were the symbol of nobility. Chu only knew that it was impossible for such purple crystals to appear in the lower 3 heavens and the upper 3 heavens. Even in the upper 3 heavens, it was a treasure that all the major forces would fight over. If the piece in front of him was taken out, it would not be strange at all that it would cause a world war in the upper 3 heavens. Shaking his head, he bit his tongue hard. A piercing pain attacked him and Chu Yang realized that he was not dreaming. He opened his eyes wide and stepped forward to take a look. On the huge purple crystal, there were a few lines of words that were like dragons flying and phoenixes dancing. They were about to break through the surface of the monolith and fly out. Chu Yang looked, and his eyes seemed to be attracted by these few lines of words. Tribulation Chongtian, it's lonely at the top. The palm turns the cycle of reincarnation, the palm holds the world. A glance of wind and thunder, a rage of the cold sea. One hand breaks the firmament, one sword dances the sky. Good spirit, Chu Yang murmured. After the initial discomfort, he had gradually adapted to this place. He faintly understood that this should be the space of the tribulation sword in his mind, and what he was here now was not his physical body. It should also be a divine fate. At this moment, the dense fog stirred and a blurry figure appeared. It slowly became clear and formed into a tall and slender figure. It walked out of the thick fog at the edge. After more than 10,000 years, I'm finally here again. This person looked at the surrounding scenery and said with a sigh. His voice was filled with sorrow. You are the sword spirit? When this figure opened his mouth, Chu Yang recognized him from his unique accent. I am the sword spirit? This figure was at a loss and he actually asked a question in return. He stretched out a hand and touched the purple crystal monolith. His face was full of disappointment and he said, Sword spirit, such a noble name, how can I bear it? You are not the sword spirit? When two become one, it is the sword spirit. This illusory figure's eyes suddenly emitted a divine light of desire. I am alone, only the sword spirit. Only when a sword has a soul, it has a spirit. Only when a sword has a spirit, it has a spirit. Oh. Chu Yang nodded as if he understood. He vaguely remembered that this conversation seemed to have been answered before. But in this space he couldn't help but ask again. How do I use this space? Chu Yang asked. It is in your mind. You can use it however you want, the figure said lightly. The tribulation space can accommodate all things. You can do whatever you want. But, before you get the 7th fragment of the tribulation sword, the tribulation space cannot accommodate living things. I see. Chu Yang nodded silently. Now you can go and get the second fragment of the tribulation sword. The figure stood quietly and sighed. There is someone outside watching you. His martial power is not bad. It is the little guy who gave you the purple crystal that day. He didn't have any evil intentions. I won't help you. I haven't been here for more than 10,000 years. I want to stay here quietly for a while. Chu Yang's heart shook and he said, okay. With a thought, he had already retreated from that strange space. Suddenly he felt a sharp pain in his mouth, and there was a sticky smell of blood. He touched it with his hand and his hand was full of blood. After a while he understood. When he bit his tongue he only felt pain inside. It turned out that he had bitten his tongue open. The sword spirit's words caused a great disturbance in Chu Yang's heart. The person who gave you the purple crystal. He didn't have any evil intentions towards you. If he doesn't have any ill intentions, then that's it. Is he really related to my background? This thought arose in Chu Yang's heart. His heart suddenly felt very frightened. He had been abandoned for more than 10 years. If he counted his previous life, he had been abandoned for more than 10 years. The mystery of his background had always been a knot in Chu Yang's heart. But now that there was a glimmer of hope, even Chu Yang's tenacious heart became worried. For a moment he didn't know what he was thinking. It was a subtle feeling similar to homesickness. He longed to know the truth. He longed to die. But he was also afraid of knowing the truth. He was also scared to death. Before he knew the truth, there was still hope in his heart. But if the truth was indeed the cruelest kind, then there would be no room for him to turn around. Chu Yang was stunned for a long time. Then he sighed softly and pressed a button in the room. A secret passage appeared. Chu Yang stepped in, and the entrance of the secret passage slowly closed. Chapter 221. Just as Chu Yang's figure disappeared, the space in the room seemed to distort. Then, the figure of the man in green mysteriously appeared in the room. Secret room? The man in green's eyes flashed with pride. He touched his chin and murmured, looks like this guy's things are in the secret room. Next time when they go out, I'll go in and take a look. If I can find the jade essence, I'll be rich. Just the reward from the old man is enough for me to bear the consequences. But the most important thing now is to find a place to drink wine and celebrate. How sinister! Such a small thing actually hid things in such a secretive manner. But he still can't hide from me. He smiled proudly for a while and suddenly disappeared. Obviously, the man in green who thought he found a big clue couldn't wait to celebrate. As for breaking in now, that wouldn't do. If he triggered the mechanism inside and alerted him, wouldn't he be disappointed again? This little guy's alertness is not ordinary. It's best to wait until he's gone. Chu Yang had already walked into the secret passage. It looked like he was walking very fast, but his hands were behind his back, quietly laying down spider webs one after another behind him. They were so dense that there were hundreds of them crisscrossing behind him. Each one was as thick as a spider's web. In the darkness it was impossible to distinguish them. But as long as they were touched, Chu Yang would be able to detect them immediately. This was the great technique of the Calamity Sword to avoid tracking. Now that the sword spirit was resting, he relied on this to guard against the man in green. Even if he didn't have any evil intentions, the less people knew that he was the master of the Calamity Sword, the better. This was the root of the disaster. But Chu Yang's action was superfluous. The man in green didn't follow me in. Entering the lowest level of the Heavenly Armament Pavilion, Chu Yang was already 100 feet underground. He could already feel a slight chill. This had nothing to do with the weather. It was the deep cold underground. It took a lot of effort to build this place. It was surrounded by lake water on all sides. He had to ensure that the water couldn't seep in, and the second fragment of the Calamity Sword was here. Chu Yang calmed himself down and operated the God Tribulation Overlapping Heaven Divine technique with all his might. The sword tip of the Tribulation Sword in his dantian let out a joyful cry and automatically rushed out of his dantian and into his right finger. On his finger, a faint cold light flashed, emitting a cold light that was at least 10 feet long. The next moment, Chu Yang lowered his hand, and the cold light of the Tribulation Sword slashed down almost impatiently. After several swords, there didn't seem to be anything out of the ordinary on the ground, but it had already been divided into several large pieces. Beneath the ground, a joyous mood could be felt. It was as if a child who had been away from home for a long time suddenly saw his mother. Chu Yang's heart was suddenly filled with joy. He put away the sword point and concentrated his martial power into both of his hands. Then he inserted them into the ground and suddenly lifted them up. A large piece of rock that was close to a kilogram in weight was lifted up by him. Then came the next one. After a series of blocks, the previous stone chamber was almost filled up, but a huge hole appeared on the ground. There was no waste at all. After these stones were moved away, a small strange spring water appeared on the ground. The water was milky white and it gurgled out. The strange thing about this spring water was that although it was gurgling out, it didn't overflow at all. After it came out, it kept spinning in place, but it didn't even soak the fist-sized spring water. Chu Yang's eyes lit up. This scene was the same as in his previous life. Moreover, this spring water had an inexplicable effect of strengthening one's body. Back then, when he drank until he was full, he only felt that he was full of vitality. Moreover, it was very difficult for him to feel tired mentally. From then on, even if his body was injured, it wouldn't leave any scars and he could recover in a few days. Chiang guessed that it should be related to this spring water. It was a pity that he only drank that one time. When he took out the second part, the spring water suddenly disappeared. This matter made Chu Yang feel extremely regretful. Moreover, in his previous life, the tribulation sword was just a weapon in his hand. It wasn't like in this life, where it became invisible. Chu Yang looked at this spring water, and his heart was in a mess. This was a good thing. It would be a pity if he couldn't keep it. Quickly, he had no choice but to call out the sword spirit again. Is there any way to preserve this spring water? The sword spirit snorted disdainfully and said, "It's just some vitality spring water. How can this be considered a good thing? It's just nourishing the sword edge. It's far inferior to the seventh part of the crystal spirit spring. Are you interested in this? Although this thing isn't good, but isn't it useful now?" When Chu Yang said, "although it's not good," he was quite conflicted and unwilling. In his view, this was a top-grade good thing. The sword spirit looked at Chu Yang with a look that said, "You're just a bumpkin who hasn't seen the world." The corner of his mouth twitched and he said, "Just move this spring water into the tribulation space. Do you still need me to teach you?" How do I move it?" Chu Yang sweated profusely. "Put the sword tip above the spring water, and use your mind to communicate with the space and then take it. Sigh, to think that back then I accompanied Calamity Sword and dominated the world. But now, the sword spirit felt that it was an insult to be with such a retard. He couldn't help but sigh as if he was casting pearls before swine. Minister Chu swallowed his anger and agreed. He took out the sword tip again and his mind sank into the tribulation space. He shouted, "Take it." "Do you have to shout?" The sword spirit was exasperated at Chu Yang's failure to live up to his expectations. He chattered disdainfully, "I've never seen someone as stupid as you. You're home. There's nothing for you to do. Go back and continue to think about old times." Chu Yang saw that the spring had successfully disappeared in front of him. Then a spring water appeared in the tribulation space in his mind. It was bubbling with gurgling sounds. Minister Chu was overjoyed. But anger rose in his heart. Then he swiftly pulled out the bridge after crossing it. The sword spirit pointed angrily at Chu Yang. After a long while, he disappeared resentfully. This time Minister Chu was very angry. "Little guy, you want to fight with me? Although you're a little old, you're still too young." Minister Chu was very happy. He couldn't help but feel a little smug. "The spirit spring is in my hands and the second part is in the spirit spring. This is called great." His mind sank into the tribulation space. He approached the spring water and laughed foolishly for a while. Then he carefully inserted the sword tip of the tribulation sword into it. Faintly there was a tinkling sound. Chu Yang's heart suddenly rose. It was the feeling of a couple who were passionately in love suddenly reuniting in the ruins of war. Cough cough. It seems that the sword tip and the second part of the tribulation sword are embracing each other happily. Chu Yang's heart shuddered. A layer of goosebumps appeared all over his body. He couldn't help but reach out and scratch. Then a cool feeling came from his arm. It seemed that something had entered his dantian along his meridians. Chu Yang's consciousness returned to reality in an instant. His mind sank into his dantian. Looking inside, he saw a shining sword tip approaching the sword tip. In the next moment, the back of the sword tip emitted a pink light. The front of the sword tip emitted a milky white light. They suddenly mixed together. Chu Yang only felt a loud bang in his mind. His entire soul seemed to have completely collapsed at this moment, scattering into the boundless night sky. A mysterious feeling rose in his heart. He was deep underground, but he could clearly feel his thoughts rising up. In front of his eyes, a sharp sword tip emitted a light that swallowed heaven and earth, rushing straight into the sky. In the next moment, the sword tip emitted a blazing light, covering the light of the sun, moon, and stars in the sky. In the Chongtian continent, whether it was the lower three heavens, the upper three heavens, or the lower three heavens at the same time, suddenly fell into a vast expanse of white. Chu Yang suddenly remembered something that Meng Chaoran had said when he was evaluating the sword. The sword tip, next to the sword tip, is the front half of the sword body. The sharp edge is the sword tip. This part has the greatest power and the strongest killing power. Double-sided blade, double-sided groove, double-sided kill. It's suitable for slashing, waving, slashing, sweeping. Chu Yang seemed to have understood something. It seemed that this sword tip was a killing weapon. At this moment, the sword tip and sword tip in his dantian had perfectly merged. They couldn't be distinguished from each other. A bright light was emitted from the sword tip in his dantian, shooting into Chu Yang's sea of consciousness. A section of sword technique suddenly appeared just like that. A sword tip that has been famous since ancient times, whistling winds and clouds from the west to the east. The sun and moon are the generals of thunder, splitting mountains and breaking peaks freely, the sword tip flashed. Chu Yang could clearly see that on one side of the sword ridge, there was a small sun symbol, and on the other side there was a crescent moon symbol. The sun and moon are the generals of thunder. What does it mean? Chu Yang frowned and pondered carefully. In the space of consciousness, the sword spirit shouted coldly, "Watch!" Suddenly, his figure rose up, and an illusory long sword appeared in his hand. In Chu Yang's space of consciousness, the sword momentum slowly unfolded. The sword momentum of the sword tip was different from that of the sword tip. The sword momentum of the sword tip was filled with a threatening murderous aura even before it was released. It was a kind of arrogance and momentum that ignored everything, including heaven and earth. No matter what was in front of the sword tip, it would be cut down one by one. The second section is the sword tip. The sword tip is the most powerful, but it is also the easiest to make people suspicious. So, before your wings are fully grown, use it with caution. The sword spirit reminded him with a cold face. Chu Yang didn't have the time to listen to what the sword spirit was saying. He was completely immersed in this mysterious sword momentum, and his own cultivation, unknowingly, soared by leaps and bounds. If Chu Yang was paying attention now, he would realize that the sword tip in his dantian was constantly emitting a gentle power, slowly transforming his meridians and increasing his cultivation. 7th grade martial master. Breakthrough, early 8th grade, peak 8th grade, continued with an unstoppable breakthrough. Grade, peak of grade. The sword tip was still shining, still persistently pushing forward. It was like a cold-faced and emotionless swordsman, killing the enemy in front of him without any expression. Under the power of the sword tip, each and every one of the cultivation barriers were like clay chickens and pottery dogs, disintegrating in an instant. Sword Great Master. Chapter 222. The power of the sword edge was still coming out firmly. It was full of a domineering aura. It seemed that if no one stopped it, it would directly push Chu Yang to become a supreme martial artist. Enough. The sword spirit finally stopped it. Even if the sword spirit was worried that Chu Yang's realm was unstable, in the face of the sword edge's tyrannical aura, he could only let it vent for a while. He didn't dare to stop it forcefully. The domineering edge of the sword had always been a character that could do whatever he wanted in the land of the Calamity Sword. The sword edge didn't move and continued to push forward indifferently. Finally, when the sword spirit was about to explode, the sword edge stopped. Chu Yang's realm remained at the peak of 2nd grade Sword Great Master. In the face of such a situation, the sword spirit could only sigh. He couldn't stop it at all except for remedial actions. The sword edge was originally a sharp weapon. It was an intruder. It would be bad if it stopped its sharpness. Chu Yang finally woke up from the mysterious sword intent. He let out a long breath. The sword edge's 4 words were the sword technique of becoming one with the sword. He was already sure of this. Using the aura to drive the sword momentum. Using the sword momentum to drive the sword style. Using the sword style to stimulate the aura of the body, and so on until the sword edge reached the body. Once the sword was out, it was violent and domineering. It was, "In the world only I am supreme." That was the meaning of this sword. Chu Yang frowned and pondered with rapt attention. The sword technique demonstrated by the sword spirit not only contains arrogance, bloodthirstiness and murderousness, but also endless desolation. That's the loneliness accumulated from being invincible throughout the ages. Chu Yang felt that he wouldn't be able to reach this realm in a short time. He slowly calmed his breathing and opened his eyes. He was about to restore the ground. But when he lifted a stone with both hands, Chu Yang exclaimed in surprise. He was so surprised that he almost dropped the stone and hit his foot. This When did I become so strong? I didn't feel the weight of the stone at all when I lifted it? He inadvertently looked into his dantian and was suddenly shocked. If the capacity of his dantian was only a mouthful before he came in, then it had undoubtedly become a big lake now. The mist was vast and boundless. He tried to raise his chi and rush towards the barrier of the 8th grade martial master. However, his path was vast and mighty, completely unobstructed. Chu Yang's eyes involuntarily widened. He continued to control his yuan chi and tried to break through to the martial master level. Once again he did not encounter any obstacles. Hardening his heart, he charged towards 1st grade martial great master. At last, I'm Rong Ko. Chu Yang finally jumped up when his breakthrough to 3rd grade martial great master was finally stopped. As he jumped, he forgot that he was still holding onto a large rock. He was actually hugging a 500-kilogram stone, and jumped more than 10 feet before falling back down with a plop. In a daze, as if he was in a dream, he moved the rocks back to their original positions. For the last one he simply twisted his waist. Unknowingly, with an extremely coquettish posture, he used his buttocks to push the 1,000-pound rock into the air with a pew sound, and it fell into the final hole, seamlessly. Fuck. All I did was blink my eyes. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Martial Great Master? And I'm at the peak of 2nd grade Martial Great Master? Chu Yang scratched his head and fiercely pinched his arm. A burst of intense pain woke Minister Chu up as if he had just woken up from a dream. It's true. I've really broken through. And it's as if I'm flying. Chu Yang's entire body floated out. When he came out to take a look, he was shocked. Gu Duxing's face was heavy as he looked up at the sky. Luo Kudi and Miao Butong also had extremely heavy expressions. It was as if there was something that made these people so conflicted that their heads hurt. As for GMO was sprawled on the ground. His clothes were tattered, his nose was bruised, and his face was swollen like a pig's head. He was also trying his best to open his swollen eyes and look at the sky in shock. Chu Yang was stunned. What's going on? Following their gazes, he could not help but look up at the sky as well. However, all he saw was a clear sky with white clouds and a cold wind blowing. There was nothing unusual. What's wrong with you guys? Chu Yang asked curiously. Something that could make these four reveal such an expression at the same time was definitely a big matter. Chu Yang firmly believed this, but he really could not see where the big matter was. This made him depressed. Something big has happened. Gu Duxing was still looking at the sky. It was as if there was something he wanted to pursue in the eternal sky. He was so persistent in looking. Something big. Looking at Luo Kudi and the others nodding continuously, and GMO who was lying on the ground also nodded like a chicken pecking rice, Chu Yang was confused. Calamity Sword Master has already found the second fragment of the Calamity Sword. Gu Duxing said deeply. In other words, the second fragment of the Calamity Sword has returned. Calamity Sword Master. Calamity Sword? Ah. Chu Yang was so shocked that he almost bit his own tongue. He was dumbfounded. In an instant he only felt a gush of blood rushing to his head. That's right. The four of them nodded together. 4 pairs of solemn eyes looked at Chu Yang together. From Chu Yang's perspective they seemed to be deep in thought. Except for GMO who was beaten up by Gu Duxing to the point that he could not open his eyes and could only squint his eyes, the other 3 all had big eyes like a bull's eyes. How did you guys know? Chu Yang stuttered. You're so stupid. Gu Duxing glared at him and said, every time Calamity Sword Master finds a fragment of the Calamity Sword, the sky of Fort Continent will change color. This is a phenomenon in the sky. Phenomenon in the sky? Chu Yang rolled his eyes and almost fainted. Motherfucker, he almost blurted out, we're all brothers, you guys have to keep this a secret for me. This is not fun. Luckily he didn't say it out loud. You don't even know this? Gu Duxing looked at him with disdain. You're from Fort Continent. You don't even know Calamity Sword Master? Is he very famous? Minister Chu asked with a smile in his eyes. His attitude was very smug. He was just waiting to be flattered. He's more than famous. Sure enough, the 4 of them shouted together. Each of them looked at Chu Yang with a "you're hopeless" look. Calamity Sword Master. Calamity Sword Master. He's the idol of the entire Fort Continent. Oh my god, you don't know? Idol? Minister Chu rubbed his belly without leaving a trace. Then he stuck out his tongue and brushed it across his upper lip. He said in surprise, so powerful? Is he also your idol? Of course. The 4 of them shouted in unison. Their answers made Minister Chu feel like he was drinking wine. He asked dizzily, is this person very powerful? More than powerful. GMO said with a bitter face, "It's because of this bastard that I was kicked out of upper three heavens for training. This bastard. If I see him I'll definitely beat him up. I'm just afraid that I won't." Huh? Chu Yang's brows twitched. Yes. This Calamity Sword Master is a guy who wants to see the world in chaos. As long as he appears, the world will not be peaceful. Luo Kadi said angrily, "This bastard is a shit stirrer." Minister Chu's face darkened. However, Calamity Sword is a divine object that sword practitioners like us dream of. Gu Duxing's words were more sincere. But before Chu Yang's mood improved a little, he added, "It's a pity that it fell into the hands of a lucky bastard. It's simply a waste of a heavenly treasure. If it fell into my hands," Rui Badong nodded repeatedly, "Yes, yes. This kind of lucky bastard is the most infuriating. If he's lucky then so be it. But he has to come out and show off. If he wants to show off then so be it. But he has to cause chaos in the world. Motherfucker, who has it easy in this world? Everyone has to work hard. But this bastard with a sword can kill 5 people." King of Hell Chu's shoulders slumped. He said listlessly, "I really want to chop someone." "We want to too." The 4 of them said in unison, "We're especially interested in that Calamity Sword Master." Minister Chu rolled his eyes and said as if he had just discovered the new fort continent, "Wow. GMO. Oh, my poor third brother, what happened to you? Look at you. You look like you were raped by a pack of bears." Well, it was a great way to change the topic. "Sup. I wasn't raped by a bear but I'm close." This shout was extremely depressing. Even Gmo's eyes, which were swollen into a line, miraculously widened. "What's wrong?" Chu Yang was startled. At this moment the other 3 also noticed Chu Chen's abnormality. Gu Duxing took 3 steps back in disbelief. Luo Kadi fell on his butt and sat on the ground. He was dumbfounded. Miao Budong's body swayed a few times. He was flabbergasted. "What's wrong?" Chu Yang frowned. He wanted to use this as a pretext to make a fuss. He was scolded by these guys just now but he could only endure it. "You broke through again." GMO groaned. GMO groaned and twisted his buttocks. He screamed in pain and jumped up. He had been lying down and was now standing upright. He hissed in cold air and gnashed his teeth. "There's no justice in this world. There's no justice in this world." Chu Chen finally understood. He raised his head proudly and said modestly and cautiously, "I accidentally broke through a few levels. It's nothing. I just went from a 7th grade martial master to a 2nd grade martial great master. It's not worth mentioning, not worth mentioning." He squinted his eyes and said with a smile, "Facing you guys from the super clans of the upper 3 heavens, this kind of speed is even more embarrassing. There's no justice in this world." GMO and Luo Kadi cried out in grief and indignation. "It's already very unreasonable to break through so quickly. After breaking through, you still want to use this to provoke us. That's even more unreasonable." Chu Yang laughed loudly. Chapter 223. Is it true or not? Although GMO was asking, his eyes were filled with the meaning of yes. If it wasn't, why did he improve so much in the blink of an eye? Besides the path of martial arts, there was no other explanation. Therefore GMO felt even more unbalanced. Why did he comprehend the path of martial arts after one fight, while I only became a pighead after one fight? The gap between people is too big, isn't it? Other than being conflicted and depressed, GMO was also a little unwilling, but more than that he was eager to try. Maybe he would comprehend after one more fight? On the side, Luo Kadi and Yu Butong also had the same idea. They both looked at Gu Duxing with their eyes, and their little abacus rang loudly in their hearts. GMO can't comprehend, but that doesn't mean we can't either. With that pig head of GMO's, how could he comprehend? His intelligence is far inferior to mine. Thus, both of them were eager to give it a try. Gu Duxing looked at the 3 coldly. He was very careful of them. If you dare to challenge me, your second brother's authority, I will definitely beat you up twice as badly as GMO." Sure enough, after a while, Luo Kadi jumped out proudly and shouted arrogantly, "Second brother, I want a duel with you." When Gu Duxing heard the word, second brother, again, his eyes almost turned red. "Since you want to be abused, if I don't fulfill your wish, I will be sorry for being called second brother by you." After about 2 hours, Luo Kadi and Yu Butong became obedient. Now the 2 of them were lying together with GMO. At first glance, they really couldn't be distinguished from each other. Fuck, their bodies are the same, swollen. They are fucking triplets. Ironcloud Citadel, a small tavern. The man in blue was holding a wine jug and drinking slowly. The moment the second fragment of Calamity Sword appeared, he suddenly stood up and disappeared into thin air. In the next moment he appeared at the top of the tallest building in Ironcloud Citadel. Standing in a milky white light and looking at the strange phenomenon in the sky, the man in blue murmured to himself, "Master of Calamity Sword. The Master of Calamity Sword has finally started to grow. For the level sky continent. Is this a blessing or a curse?" He stood there in a daze for a while. Then he softly said, "It seems that those old fellows also need to make a move. This upper three heavens is going to be turbulent from now on. I wonder how long will it take for the Master of Calamity Sword to mature? If they are slow, then the upper three heavens will be plunged into a long war." He shook his head and laughed. Calamity Sword Master appeared in the lower three heavens, but the source of the chaos and the biggest victim is the upper three heavens. Why bother? Diwu Qingru was strolling in the garden while talking to Gao Sheng about something. Suddenly the world turned white. Diwu Qingru's expression changed slightly. He said, "Is it the Master of Tribulation Sword again?" Shock appeared on Gao Sheng's face. "That's right. According to the family's records, this is the sign that the owner of the Calamity Sword has found the second fragment of the Calamity Sword. The sword tip has returned to its original position." "Yes." Diwu Qingru took 2 steps and stood still. He said, "The second fragment of the sword tip. If I remember correctly, it should be used for killing." Gao Sheng's face was a little surprised. He said, "Prime Minister is right." He didn't expect Diwu Qingru to have some understanding of the Calamity Sword. When the Calamity Sword appears, the world turns upside down. Diwu Qingru pondered for a while. He continued to walk and said softly, "Could the Master of Calamity Sword be in the Han Nation's court?" Gao Sheng thought for a while and said, "There is no record of this. However, according to the ancient legends, the Calamity Sword has always been a legend in Jianghu. In the entire level sky continent, it is almost a myth. Moreover, the legends of the Calamity Sword generally exist in the upper three heavens. Even the upper three heavens only have bits and pieces. It shouldn't belong to the court." Gao Sheng didn't say one thing. "The court? What is the court? Can it keep the Calamity Sword?" Diwu Qingru smiled and nodded. He pondered for a while and then let out a sigh of relief. It was as if he had put down a burden on his mind. He said with a rare smile, "I think so too. Since Calamity Sword doesn't exist in the imperial court, I won't go against its master. I can also put down a burden on my mind." Gao Jingxin wondered what the Prime Minister had put down. When the Prime Minister exhaled just now, it clearly had the meaning of being relieved of a heavy burden. But why? However, Gao Sheng wouldn't ask these questions. If Diwu Qingru didn't want to talk about it, it was useless to ask. At the same time, many people in the upper three heavens and the big clans of the upper three heavens looked into the distance with deep worry. Upper three heavens Chu clan. An old man in a black robe stood at the top of Chu clan's Wentian Tower. He didn't speak for a long time like a statue. Until another old man in a black robe appeared beside him, he asked softly, "The Master of Calamity Sword hasn't been confirmed yet?" "It shouldn't be. If it was confirmed, then the entire level sky would be in chaos." "Yes, the second fragment has appeared." The old man in a black robe said quietly, "The appearance of the second fragment also means that the Master of Calamity Sword has just started to grow. What do you think about this?" The old man in a black robe who came later had a pair of broken eyebrows, as if someone had cut them with a knife. Hearing this he said, "Everything depends on fate. Old Master, don't worry." He looked like he was only a few years younger than the old man, but he called him Old Master. "Fate, hee." The old man in a black robe laughed coldly. "The appearance of Calamity Sword means that the power structure of the level sky continent is about to change. Our Chu clan may look prosperous now, but the future is bleak. This time, many thousand-year-old monsters will definitely come out to face the calamity. Tell the clan to be careful." The old man with the broken eyebrows said awkwardly, "Yes. I've already passed down the order." Calamity Sword. Calamity Sword. This calamity word is not easy to remove. The old man in a black robe's expression seemed to contain endless worry. Could it be that Calamity Sword is calamity? The old man with the broken eyebrows asked. "It's not just calamity." The old man in a black robe sighed. "Every time a Calamity Sword appears, a big family or a big power will come out of nowhere and dominate the upper three heavens for 10,000 years. And this big family corresponds to the Calamity Sword of the Master of the Calamity Sword. This can't be right?" The old man with the broken eyebrows exclaimed, "How long has the level sky continent been inhabited for?" The records of the level sky continent say that since the beginning of human history, it has been 17,000 years. This was simply the biggest joke in the world. I don't know whether to laugh or cry. The old man in a black robe said heavily, "Our Chu clan is not a big power. We only rose up in the last 1,000 years. But back then our old master traveled with Li Yuntian for a period of time. It was during that period of time that our old master became a legend and the Chu clan's 1,500 years of status. And that short period of 3 months became the proudest thing in the elder ancestor's life." Li Yuntian? Isn't Li Yuntian the head of the Li clan from 1,000 years ago? One of the big powers that once dominated the upper three heavens? The old man with the broken eyebrows exclaimed. "That's right." The old man in a black robe said faintly, "And our old master recorded what Li Yuntian said during those 3 months. There was one sentence." Speaking of this, he suddenly became silent and seemed to be lost in thought. "Well, the calamity sword appears once every 10,000 years. Once it appears, the world shakes. It has appeared 8 times in history. And I, Li Yuntian, was born 8,000 years later. I wonder if I will have the fortune to see the first master of the calamity sword when he appears?" The old man in a black robe said softly. "Once every 10,000 years? 8 times?" The old man with the broken eyebrows exclaimed, his eyes wide open. "Doesn't this mean that the lower three heavens continent has existed for at least 80,000 years? "That's right. You're not stupid." The old man in a black robe snorted. "But the history of the continent." The old man with the broken eyebrows was interrupted by the old man in a black robe. "The history of the continent? What history?" "History is at most a book that can be changed at any time. As long as someone knows how to write, he can change the past history." He sneered, "No matter what the future generations write, those who are already dead will never climb out of their coffins to stop it." The old man with the broken eyebrows gasped. "So, Master, this record of our old master's ancestor. Can it?" "No." The old man in a black robe flatly refused. "There are too many secrets in it. It's not good for you to read it." He snorted and said, "Besides, in the current Chu family, there are no outstanding talents at all. All of them are mediocre, especially the youngest generation. They are all stupid. If you know these secrets, it will be a great disaster." The old man with the broken eyebrows was stunned for a long time before he muttered, "There are a few who are good, such as those who reached revered martial artist at a young age. Even among the peers of the big families, they are very good." "Nonsense. I'm talking about super geniuses. I'm talking about development potential." The old man in a black robe said angrily, "Now that the master of the disaster sword has appeared, if one of the Chu family's brothers can be selected as one of the segments, that's a great fortune. But what's the use of being the king of the mouse kingdom? Even if you are invincible in the mouse kingdom, you are still a mouse." "One of the segments of the disaster sword?" The old man with the broken eyebrows was stunned. There was such a saying? The disaster sword is divided into segments: sword tip, sword edge, sword guard, sword tongue, sword hilt, sword pommel, sword tassel, sword spirit. The old man in a black robe said worriedly, "Why do all the big families send people down to train when the disaster sword appears? This is a tradition, but where did this tradition come from? No one knows about this for 3 days." Chapter 224. Then, why don't we send people down from Shangsantian? The old man with broken eyebrows asked hurriedly. "Because the master of calamity sword started from Shangsantian." The old man in black robe put his hands behind his back. "If people from Shangsantian go down to train, it will disturb the operation of the heavens. It will cause the heavens to fall into eternal chaos. That's why Shangsantian is not allowed to participate. Even if they want to train, they can only train in Shangsantian, not in Shangsantian. If any family disobeys, they will be besieged by all forces until they are destroyed. This is the iron law of the heavens. In the upper 3 heavens, there is only one clan that can go directly to the lower 3 heavens. They are not restricted by this restriction. But every time only one person can go down." A strange expression flashed across the black-robed man's eyes as he said in a deep voice, "What are the conditions for the person who fits the criteria?" The old man with broken eyebrows asked. "Everything is fate." The old man in black robe sighed. "It's not something that can be done by humans." After a long time, the sky returned to normal. The old man in black robe said, "Haven't you found Fei Ling's son?" "No." The old man with broken eyebrows sighed. It's been 17 years. It's a bit difficult. Bastard. The old man in black robe shouted angrily. The Yang family and our Chu family are in a deadlock because of their only son. After more than 10 years of friction, our former allies almost became enemies. How can we give up so easily? At this critical moment, if we can't get the Yang family to be our ally, the Chu family can't do anything alone. The consequences are unimaginable. We can't be careless about the search. Yes. It's a pity that the Master of Calamity Sword has already found the second fragment of Calamity Sword and has started to grow rapidly. He got angrier as he spoke. Chu Xiongqing. If you can even lose your own grandson, why don't you lose yourself as well? The old man with broken eyebrows looked gloomy and said bitterly, What about you? Get lost. The old man in black robe shouted angrily. Then he turned into a black cloud and disappeared. He asked him to get lost, but he disappeared before he could do so. Sigh, every time I mention this, it's always like this. The old man with broken eyebrows touched his broken eyebrows. Am I really willing to lose my own son? That's unreasonable. Sighing, he disappeared with a flash of his body as well, in the extreme north of Upper Three Heavens, in the vast ice and snow wilderness. Other than ice and snow, there was only darkness. But at this moment, the aura of the Calamity Sword that soared into the skies added a milky white glow to this world that had been left behind. It was as though a door was slowly opening, amidst the howling wind and snow, a voice was shouting excitedly, It's here, it's here. Those who meet the requirements, get out immediately. And now, Chu Yang had gathered Gu Duxing and the others together, and mysteriously called them into his room. Come, come, come. There's good news. What good thing? Chu Yang smiled and took out a jade bottle from his bosom. He took out 4 cups and said slowly, I'll treat you to some water. Drink in. The 4 of them were speechless at the same time. We've never drunk water before? Chu Yang uncorked the jade bottle and filled 4 wine cups. He said, Please? A strange fragrance suddenly filled the room. Smelling this fragrance, the 4 of them felt their spirits rise. The 4 cups of water were quietly placed on the table. They were as clear as jade, and the water had a faint sparkling green color. Gu Duxing's face revealed a puzzled expression. Looking at the 4 cups of strange water, he seemed to be thinking about something. Suddenly, he exclaimed, Vitality spring water? What? Luo Kudi and GMO turned pale with fright at the same time. Neither of them had expected to see such a priceless treasure in this place. Vitality spring water could strengthen one's foundation and increase the vitality of all animals and plants in the world. It had a miraculous effect on recovery after injury, and as long as it was an external injury, the effect would be even better. It also had a nourishing effect on internal injuries. And this thing had a miraculous effect on nurturing spirit herbs. A drop of vitality spring water could revive a dying spirit herb instantly and restore its vitality. It could also increase the efficacy of the spirit herb for a year. Legend had it that only the medicine god clan of Upper Three Heavens had this kind of spring water, and the annual production was no more than 10 drops. The medicine god clan regarded it as a family heirloom and heavily guarded. And now there were 4 full cups here. Yes, it's vitality spring water. Chu Yang smiled and said, I've already drunk it. This spring water is very good. After drinking it, at least if I get injured in the future, there won't be any scars on my body. Lu Ba. The 4 looked at this mysterious boss as if they were looking at a monster. Such precious vitality spring water, you let us drink it just to not leave any scars? If you delay any longer, the efficacy will be released. Chu Yang reminded them with a smile. The 4 of them moved quickly. They picked up a cup and poured it into their mouths. But just as Gu Duxing was about to drink, he suddenly stopped. He took out a small jade bottle from his bosom and very carefully poured the spring water into the bottle. What are you doing? Chu Yang asked curiously. Drinking it like this is a pity. Gu Duxing smiled and said with longing, I'm saving it for Sister Xiao Miao. Sister Xiao Miao is a girl. She usually cares about her appearance the most. Just the fact that there won't be any scars will make her happy for a long time. Idiot, I have more here. I'm giving it to you, so quickly drink it. Chu Yang was angry, amused, and touched. You really have more? Gu Duxing looked at Chu Yang suspiciously. Seeing Chu Yang nod his head, he was relieved and smiled. He drank the spring water in one gulp. This time, GMO and Luo Kudi were silent. They didn't laugh at him. They looked at Gu Duxing with eyes full of admiration. A man who thought of his lover at all times. On this continent where wives were as common as clouds, how rare was this? Who would dare to laugh at such a true love? This spring water isn't a lot. I only got it by chance. Besides leaving some for Xiao Wu and Dong Wushang, I only have a few cups left. It's fine as long as everyone drinks it. Don't tell anyone. Chu Yang cautiously reminded. Although there was still a whole spring, these things were precious when they were rare. If there wasn't a lot, it would be sincere to share it. If there was a lot, it wouldn't be rare anymore. If his brothers wanted to use it, Chu Yang naturally wouldn't be stingy. But for unrelated people, it was better to stay far away. Although Chu Yang was a little cautious, this scheme was for the sake of this group. Yes. The four solemnly replied at the same time. Once this kind of spring water was leaked, it would cause a huge uproar. With the conditions of these people, they really couldn't keep it. After solving this matter, the four brothers were a little excited. GMO proposed to go out and have a romantic encounter, which was seriously despised by the other three. Then Chu Yang went to Butian Pavilion alone. GMO and the other three also went out with their arms around each other's shoulders. Just as he let Wu Qianqian drink a cup of Vitality spring water, someone came from the palace and said that His Majesty invited him. Chu Yang sighed. Every time I have something good, His Majesty invites me. This guy's nose can't be that good, right? Wu Qianqian giggled. She took out a black robe and said, Chu Yang, try it on. Does it fit? You made it? Chu Yang's eyes focused. Yes. Wu Qianqian blushed and said, I made it based on the last one. Chu Yang nodded and sighed in his heart. He couldn't bear to reject her good intentions and said with a smile, I'll try it. Then he put it on. The size was just right. Wu Qianqian stood in front of him and sized him up. She smiled and said, It's okay. Wear it. Why do I feel that something is not right? Chu Yang looked at the black robe suspiciously. New clothes are always like this. Wu Qianqian blushed and urged, His Majesty is looking for you. Quickly go. Watching Chu Yang go out, Wu Qianqian picked up the black robe and sniffed it. Her eyes revealed a perplexed look and she sighed softly. Diwu Qingro sent a letter? He asked me to take Tang Xan Sheng's family back? Chu Yang looked at Tai Butian in surprise. Yes. Tai Butian was wearing an imperial robe. It was still loose on his body. He looked a little tired. What does His Majesty mean? Chu Yang put down Diwu Qingro's letter and asked. It's okay to give it. It's also okay to not give it. Tai Butian said, The key is your attitude. My attitude is to give it. Chu Yang said slowly, I'm going to Great Jiao soon. Since Diwu Qingro wants to invite me over and sent me such a good opportunity, how can I not give it? Moreover, it's useless for us to keep Tang Xan Sheng's orphan and widow. You want to go to Great Jiao? Tai Butian stood up abruptly. No. Why not? If Diwu Qingro can deal with us, why can't we cause trouble for him? Chu Yang said calmly, Let Great Jiao become chaotic. That's our chance. It's too dangerous. Tai Butian slowly sat down and said, Our side is already full of danger, let alone Diwu Qingro's headquarters. That place is full of danger at any time. And your identity is so confusing. Because of this, I have to go. Chu Yang said casually, Blindly defending will not be able to defend. Tai Butian knew that Chu Yang had made up his mind. He could not help but feel disappointed. If you go to Great Jiao, what will happen to Butian Pavilion? Butian Pavilion will remain the same. I will go to Great Jiao, but King of Hell Chu will not go. Chu Yang said softly, Wu Qianqian can now take charge. Tai Butian stood up and slowly paced back and forth. But, you have to promise me. You must come back alive. Chu Yang laughed. Your Majesty, don't worry. In this world there is no one who can take my life. Tai Butian did not laugh at his joke. Instead he looked at him deeply and said, When you go there, safety is the most important thing. If it is not feasible, then go back as soon as possible. If the opportunity is gone, we can create another one. But if you are gone, it will be very difficult for me to find another minister of Butian Pavilion. Feeling Tai Butian's sincere concern, Chu Yang said softly, I will. Chapter 225. Tai Butian was obviously worried about Chu Yang's decision to go to Great Jiao. He even drank the Vitality spring water that Chu Chao had given him. He wanted to say something several times but stopped in the end. He paced back and forth in the palace with his hands clasped behind his back. Can you leave within 7 days? When Chu Yang asked when Tang Xan Sheng's family would leave, Tai Butian said, Diwu Qingro did not send anyone to pick them up. Are we going to send them off? Plus it's freezing cold. Why don't we wait until spring comes? Chu Yang frowned. He felt that Tai Butian was being impulsive. He did not want to let Tang Xansheng's family go, but he did not want Chu Yang to leave. That's fine. In any case, I will not go with them. Chu Yang said. When will you leave? When the time is right, I will take the initiative to leave. Chu Yang smiled. Hearing Chu Yang's answer, Tai Butian sighed. Seeing that there was nothing else, Chu Yang was about to leave. When he reached the door, Tai Butian suddenly shouted from behind, Minister Chu. Chu Yang. Chu Yang turned around and looked at Tai Butian questioningly. Your Majesty, is there something wrong? Tai Butian's lips wriggled twice as if she wanted to say something. But she didn't say anything. Finally, she turned around and said indifferently, If Minister Chu wants to leave for Great Zhao, then, you should inform me before you leave. Chu Yang replied, I know. He turned around and left. What nonsense are you talking about? How can I not tell you when I want to leave? After another 3 days, Dong Wuxiang finally returned in high spirits. This guy had used some unknown method to actually bring back half a carriage full of ink steel. This was because Chu Yang told him, it's better to have more or else we won't be able to make it. Looking at half a carriage, the 5 brothers were speechless. Based on the weight and density of black steel, half a carriage weighed more than 10,000 pounds. The 8 horses pulling the carriage were so tired that they stuck out their tongues. Their bodies were sweating and steaming. In the cold winter, they looked like 8 steamers as they stopped in front of Heavenly Armament Pavilion. Along the way there were 2 deep trenches. Ironclad Citadel's roads were originally very good. Even though these things were heavy, they should not have left such deep trenches. However, the heavy snow had caused the roads to become soft. Cough cough, I came a little late because I was preparing the ink steel. Dong Wuxiang wiped the sweat off his face and shrugged his shoulders. My idol. Luo Kudi and Ji Moyin could not understand what was going on. Sisher was dumbfounded as he exclaimed, How did you get so much ink steel? How did you come to the passageway that leads to the lower 3 heavens? I put them on my head. Dong Wuxiang's face turned red. He stammered, I put them on my head one by one. Come out, go in again and then come out again. GMO sat down on the ground. He was flabbergasted for a long time. Then he suddenly burst out laughing, I'm convinced. Dong Wuxiang. This is the first time I, GMO, have been so convinced and impressed by someone. Ha ha, on top of my head? Come out and then go back in? Go in and come out? Oh my god. You are killing me with laughter. Luo Kadi slapped his own buttocks with all his might. He was so happy that he could not close his mouth. You are indeed 4th brother. This bull is simply at its peak. This was Luo Kadi's signature move. Once he was excited he would slap his own buttocks. Moreover, he would drag it out loudly and rhythmically. Gu Duxing also couldn't hold back his laughter. He burst out laughing and coughed repeatedly. Boss, is this enough? Dong Wuxiang rubbed his hands. He looked at Chu Yang with an urgent gaze. If it is not enough, I will go back and get more. It is enough. It is more than enough. Chu Yang coughed a few times. What I find strange is, did you bring all these here by yourself? Cough cough, they sent me to the entrance of Ironclad Citadel. I let them go back. Dong Wuxiang coughed a few times and said, I know what you mean, boss. If we can hide this place from the clan, then we should try our best not to let them know about it. Although we can't hide it from those people in the clan, as long as we act like we don't want others to know about it, they will turn a blind eye to it. Yes, yes, you did well. Chu Yang gave a rare compliment. When I went back this time, I had a spar with my master. Dong Wuxiang said excitedly, my master was shocked. Haha, I almost succeeded with a sneak attack. Your master did not break your legs? Gu Duxing curled his lips. Dong Wuxiang's father was famous for being strict. No. How could that be? Dong Wuxiang straightened his neck. He could not wait to praise me. Boss, when are you going to start? Why are you in such a hurry? Chu Yang rolled his eyes. I have to find someone. Besides, what kind of weapon do you want? How heavy is it? More than 10,000 pounds of black steel. If I use all of it, can you lift it? The heavier the better. Dong Wuxiang gritted his teeth and said, Boss, if you can make me a 500-pound saber, that will be enough. I will be very satisfied. 500 pounds? The 5 people exclaimed at the same time. An ordinary sword was only 7 pounds. A special sword was only 20 to 30 pounds. As for the sword that Chu Yang gave GMO, it was a little heavier, only 50 pounds. Of course this was a sword, not a saber. But the black saber of Dong Wuxiang's clan was only 80 pounds. Even Dong Wuxiang's father, the clan master of the Dong clan, used a saber that was only 200 pounds. Yet this guy actually opened his mouth and asked for 250 pounds. Could it be that he wants to use a saber to smash people? Saber practice is also cultivation. Dong Wuxiang's saber brows swept across, and a biting cold aura suddenly emitted. He said, "If this 500-pound saber is as light as a feather in my hand, that will be the great achievement of the saber path. Since ancient times, the saber has always been the king of weapons. But it has never reached the peak. The highest achievement is only the saber emperor. And some people say that this is the destiny of the saber. And I, Dong Wuxiang, will challenge this destiny of the saber path. Let's see who can be the king of weapons in the world." "Good," Chu Yang said loudly. "In that case I will do as you wish." "Thank you, big brother." Dong Wuxiang had one foot forward, the tip of his foot pointing straight, and the other back, the tip of his foot pointing outwards. His 2 feet formed a right angle. His left hand was on his chest, and his right hand was behind his back. He bowed deeply to Chu Yang. "Please, big brother." This was the most respectful etiquette a saber artist could show to others. Chu Yang straightened his body and suddenly stood up straight. Like a sword suddenly unsheathed, he made a clanging sound. He cupped his fists and said, "No need to be so polite." GMO and Gu Duxing were surprised at the same time. All this time, they didn't know what Chu Yang's main cultivation was. Only today did they know that Chu Yang's main focus was the sword. Chu Yang didn't want to say it either. He knew the temperament of these brothers. Once they determined his direction with their persistent nature of striving for perfection, they would urge him to practice the sword. And all of them wouldn't let him off easily, but today, Dong Wuxiang's supreme etiquette of the saber path forced him to return the courtesy. And he had to return the courtesy with the sword path. If it was an ordinary person, Chu Yang could ignore it. But Dong Wuxiang was his brother. Respecting one's brothers was the same as respecting oneself. "Thank you, big brother." Dong Wuxiang took out a piece of parchment from his bosom and said, "This is the style I designated for my saber." Everyone gathered around at the same time. Looking at the drawing of the saber on the parchment, they all nodded secretly. The appearance of Dong Wuxiang's saber wasn't much different from an ordinary saber. But it focused on sharpness, power, and dominance. And it pursued smoothness. Some decorations were all discarded. It was a saber from head to toe. Even the handguard was just 2 slight protrusions. Just by looking at this drawing, one could imagine how domineering this saber would be when it was forged. "Good." Chu Yang carefully folded the parchment and put it into his bosom. "Move all the ink steel into my room." Dong Wuxiang was overjoyed. He said, "Big brother is really a good person." He actually declined the help of others and moved the steel into his room one by one. The reason was, "I want to use my own strength to do everything I can for this saber. That's the saber of Dong Wuxiang." This reason was very stubborn and unreasonable. But everyone understood Dong Wuxiang's feelings. This saber would be his companion for life. That night, Chu Yang used the tribulation sword. It completely absorbed all the ink steel. After the tribulation sword absorbed the essence steel, it condensed into a large piece of essence steel. Weighing the weight, Chu Yang nodded secretly. Luckily this guy brought so much here. Otherwise it really wouldn't be enough. Now there was less than 500 kilograms left. Chu Yang waved his hand and the ink steel entered the tribulation space. The next moment, the sword spirit controlled the tip of the sword and kept circling around this piece of essence steel. According to Dong Wuxiang's request, this saber quickly took shape. A powerful and domineering saber that was smooth and elegant. Even if it was placed there quietly, it was full of the aura of a king. Looking at the saber that was forged, Chu Yang nodded with satisfaction. This saber was half an inch longer and half an inch narrower than Dong Wuxiang's request, but it was a full 570 kilograms. It didn't look much heavier than an ordinary saber. But no one would have thought that the weight of this saber was so terrifying. Chu Yang played with it for a while before he finally put the saber into the tribulation space. He couldn't take it out now. No matter what, he would have to wait for a few days. As for naming this saber, that was Dong Wuxiang's problem. But one thing was for sure. With this saber, Dong Wuxiang's cultivation would improve even more terrifyingly than in his previous life. Early the next morning, Dong Wuxiang hurriedly ran over and knocked on Chu Yang's door. "Boss, it's time to contact them." When he entered the door, he exclaimed, "Eh? Where's the ink steel? It was taken away long ago. How can I forge it here? Do you still want me to sleep?" Chu Yang pretended to close his eyes. "Amazing. Dong Wuxiang clicked his tongue in wonder and scratched his head. Last night he fell asleep after drinking the Vitality spring water. He was very tired during this period of time. But, no matter how tired he was, more than 5,000 kilograms of ink steel disappeared. He should have heard something. This matter could only be said to be magical. Chapter 226. The Mo clan? Dong Wuxiang blinked and said, "The Mo clan and our Dong clan are in the south and north respectively. They are very far apart. I don't know the details. But after Mo Tianji returned to the clan, he was sent to the Tsanglan battlefront." Chu Yang frowned. "Otherwise I wouldn't know. But when Mo Tianji left he made a lot of noise. I heard that he led his cavalry and went around deliberately. He purposely took a detour and wandered around. First he went to the Ji clan for a while. For some reason he got into a fight with the Ji clan. Then he turned south and fought with the Luo clan. Then he smashed a shop of the Gu clan. Worst of all, he burned down a steel saber workshop of our Black Saber clan. The entire Three Heavens knows that the second young master of the Mo clan has gone crazy." Dong Wuxiang snorted and said, "If I wasn't in a hurry to come back, I would have chased after that bastard and taught him a lesson." Chu Yang frowned more and more. Suddenly his eyes emitted a cold light. He smashed his fist on the bedside table. The table was smashed into pieces. Chu Yang gnashed his teeth and said, "Damn Mo clan." Chu Yang understood Mo Tianji better than anyone else in this world. It was not strange for any of the hedonistic young masters in the Three Heavens to do these things. Even a calm person like Gu Duxing would not be surprised if he did something like this when he got angry. But Mo Tianji would never do something like this. With Mo Tianji's character he would have done something like this. So he would have been a lunatic. However, this extremely impossible thing was actually done by this extremely impossible person. This was thought-provoking. Chu Yang thought that Mo Tianji must have a deep meaning for doing these things. Or after Mo Tianji went back he could not come out. Or he could not come out. So, he could only use this method to hint something to Chu Yang. Although they had only met for a short night, Mo Tianji truly knew that if there were people in this world who would risk everything for Mo Qingwu, then one of them would be himself and the other would be Chu Yang. So, there were some things that he wanted Chu Yang to know. And the clans that Mo Tianji was harassing were the clans of these 5 people. Mo Tianji had turned the world upside down. He had even placed himself in a dangerous situation. And he had only sent a message to Chu Yang. Mo Qingwu is in a very bad situation. They were relatives of the Ji clan but Mo Tianji still made a fuss. This was to say, relatives are unreliable and there are disputes in the clan. His feud with the Luo clan had been going on for generations. When he fought with the Luo clan, it meant that he was saying, "Very serious, very angry, and will not rest until one of us dies." The Gu clan was an ally of the Mo clan. This was the same as saying, "Brothers have turned against each other." Burning down the Black Saber clan's steel saber workshop was clearly telling Chu Yang that the saber had been stolen. At the same time he wanted to tell Chu Yang that the opponent was very strong. Very powerful. Even he had no choice but to go to the Tsanglan battlefront. This was an invisible warning to Chu Yang, "Be careful, plan before you act." Chu Yang gritted his teeth and asked slowly, "Is the Grand Duke of the Mo clan called Mo Tianyun?" "That's right." Dong Wuxiang thought for a while. Mo Tianyun, according to the matter of the Three Heavens clan's training because of the birth of the Tribulation Sword Master, this Mo Tianyun should be in the lower Three Heavens right now? Chu Yang asked casually. "Yes." Dong Wuxiang felt the hair on the back of his neck stand up. Chu Yang's words were said casually. But, for some reason Dong Wuxiang could hear a strong murderous intent in them. Could it be that Chu Yang wanted to kill Mo Tianyun? But these two people had no enmity with each other. Plus, Chu Yang had just saved Mo Tianyun's sister, Mo Qingwu. The Mo clan was very grateful to him. If one day Chu Yang went to the lower Three Heavens, then the Mo clan would most likely become Chu Yang's loyal ally. Why would Chu Yang want to kill someone who would most likely become an ally in the future? Plus, this kind of murderous intent was almost the kind that could not live under the same sky. "Call everyone over. There are some things I need to say." Chu Yang's face was dark as he said casually. Dong Wuxiang was startled. He turned around and went out to call people. Not long after, Gu Duxing and the others gathered in Chu Yang's room. "Us brothers, today is the first time we've sat down so formally. It's also the first time we've discussed some things together." Chu Yang did not say any polite words. He directly opened the door and said, Regarding your next step, I want to talk about it. The five of them sat up straight at the same time. Although this big brother was young and had the weakest cultivation among them, everyone knew that with Chu Yang's speed of advancement, it would not take more than a year for him to catch up with them. After a while it will be GMO's birthday. GMO wants to go back. Actually, I think that all of you can go back. It's enough for me and Gu Duxing to stay here. Chu Yang said slowly. What? The few of them were a little reluctant. It was not easy for them to have a few brothers whom they could trust with their lives. How could they be separated just like that? Do you think that you can compare to Imo Tianji? How about it? Chu Yang's gaze swept across their faces. Not as good. Gu Duxing was very straightforward. Not as good as others meant not as good as others. Dong Wuxiang nodded slowly. Compared to Imo Tianyun? Not as good. That's good. Compared to the Ao clan's Grand Duke Ao Xieyun, how about it? Chu Yang asked slowly. Not as good, as good. Gu Duxing and Dong Wuxiang looked a little ashamed. None of you are below these few people in terms of intelligence and wisdom. But whether it's scheming, dealing with people, or even cultivation, they are somewhat lacking. Admittedly, these people are a few years older than you, but this is not the main reason. Chu Yang said solemnly, it's because you have experienced too little. In other words, you have experienced too little setbacks. You have experienced too little setbacks. Chu Yang's eyes slowly brightened. So, you have to make up for this. Only then will you truly grow. At this point, Gu Duxing, Dong Wuxiang, GMO and the others all nodded. Chu Yang's words could be said to have hit the nail on the head. I also want to be with all of you for a long time, but I can't. If that's the case, all of you will be useless. Chu Yang said, if we are together we will do everything together. In that case, even Mo Tianji and Ao Xieyun's strength and wisdom will definitely not be comparable to our combined strength. Our strength will be great, but our individual strength will never increase. The individual strength I am talking about is experience and scheming. Chu Yang added, so, if you are together for a long time, it will be very disadvantageous for all of you. We must be separated. Go through trials and hardships and grow on our own. Chu Yang concluded with this sentence. This is fine. When I go back, I will ask my big brother to come over to handle some clan affairs. Dong Wuxiang nodded and said, Big brother has told me many times, but I just don't want to. For this, he even hit me several times. That guy is not afraid that I will snatch his position as the clan head? Luo Kadi rolled his eyes and muttered, Saber fanatic like you actually wants to snatch the position of the clan head? Dong Wuxiang stared at him. I also have nothing to do here. GMO sighed. That big brother of mine is just a lazy guy. Other than hitting me, he doesn't have any other hobbies. Both of us don't care about clan affairs. If I go back and say this, my master will probably be very happy. I have something to do here. Luo Kadi frowned. My big brother is very greedy for power. If I go back, I'm afraid he won't give me any power, so you have to fight. The rest of the you people said in unison, kill your big brother. Luo Kadi shuddered. When I go back, I will follow master to rob. Ji Butong said straightforwardly. The five of them fainted at the same time. Don't just rob. You also have to use knockout incense to steal and beat people up. Especially these big clans. Chu Yang guided him patiently. It's best if they all chase after you. Then you will definitely improve very quickly. Then I will also die very quickly. Rui Butong rolled his eyes, but his mind was secretly working. Is this feasible? Yes, in a few days when Wuxiang's saber is finished, we will set off and go to Great Jiao together. Chu Yang said, at that time we will do something together in Great Jiao. When we are done we will part ways in Great Jiao. So fast? The five of them said in unison. Not fast. I estimate that GMO will be able to go home after finishing half of this. Chu Yang said, today there is one more thing that I want to discuss with everyone. That is, how can we make Great Jiao chaotic? The five of them looked at each other. If we want to make Great Jiao's Jianghu chaotic, I have a way. GMO thought for a while and said, let them send a mad dog to rob. A mad dog to rob? Chu Yang seemed to understand. Boss, you can take out two of your saber and sword and then arrange their origins, and let them enter Jianghu. GMO said, this kind of divine weapon has always been the favorite of Jianghu people. However, we need to think carefully about how to create the biggest sensation. This is a good idea. Chu Yang rubbed his chin and pondered. As for the imperial court, it is hard to say. GMO frowned. Don't worry, we will cross that bridge when we get there. Chu Yang made the final decision. Let's go first. Iron Cloud is located in the north and the weather is very cold. Therefore the 3 days of clan training are usually in Great Jiao. That is because the climate there is suitable and it is the most prosperous. Therefore when we go this time, we will meet many of the Three Heavens clan's disciples. Chu Yang said gloomily, one of them is the Mo clan's Grand Duke, Missouri Tianyun. Dong Wuxiang shivered. Chu Yang finally mentioned it. Boss, you want to target Mo Tianyun? Gu Duxing furrowed his brows. I don't want to target him. I want to kill him. Chu Yang said slowly, I want to know what will happen if I make Mo Tianyun stay in lower Three Heavens forever. Chapter 227. If we want to defeat Mo Tianyun, this is not difficult. Gu Duxing considered carefully and said, but if we want to kill Mo Tianyun, I'm afraid we can't do it alone. That's right. Dong Wuxiang nodded seriously. Mo Tianyun is so powerful? Chu Yang's eyes flashed. He is indeed powerful. Gu Duxing nodded. Since a year ago, Mo Tianyun has been in charge of everything in the Mo clan. Moreover, the Mo clan's business, no matter which aspect it is, has been continuously expanding and expanding in this 1 year using proper means. This is all thanks to Mo Tianyun's efforts. Gu Duxing sighed. Mo Tianyun and Mo Tianji are known as the resourceful duo in the Three Heavens. Mo Tianji is resourceful and Mo Tianyun is scheming. This person's schemes are endless. Even if you try to guard against them, you will still fall into his trap. Yes, according to Mo Tianyun's scheming, if he really controls the Mo clan, he will be a great threat to the surrounding clans. Therefore many people don't want Mo Tianyun to live, but he is still living very well. Dong Wuxiang said. The two brothers of the Mo clan are fighting for power. Everyone in the Three Heavens knows about this. Everyone has seen Mo Tianji's strength. We are ashamed of our inferiority. GMO frowned, but Mo Tianyun was able to suppress Mo Tianji for many years. Although Mo Tianji has improved, he is still suppressed very badly. Although Mo Tianyun is a few years older than Mo Tianji, this is enough to show that his resourcefulness is not inferior to Mo Tianji's. Moreover, Mo Tianyun is a person who seeks revenge for the smallest grievance. He is a bit narrow-minded. Whatever he does, he doesn't choose to do it carefully. If you don't have 100% confidence in killing such a person, it's best not to provoke him. Luo Kadi sighed. Otherwise there will be no end of trouble. Among the 4 people who had spoken, Gu Duxing's Gu clan was a strategic ally of the Mo clan. GMO was Mo Tianyun's younger cousin, and Luo Kadi was from a rival clan of the Mo clan. These 3 people knew Mo Tianyun very well. But when they heard Chu Yang's decision, they unanimously expressed their opposition to it. Don't tell me that Mo Tianyun is a tiger's but that cannot be touched? The coldness in Chu Yang's eyes became more and more profound. Such a person is too dangerous to be an enemy. Gu Duxing said, and this person is cautious by nature. He values his own life to the extreme. Therefore I said that defeating him might be possible. But killing him, especially killing him in the lower Three Heavens, is absolutely impossible. Big brother, you must think twice about this matter. The 5 of them spoke in unison. Chu Yang slowly nodded and said, I will think about it. But, if Big brother insists on doing it, I will do it no matter what. Gu Duxing insipidly said. I will definitely take action. Luo Kadi laughed mischievously. Dong Wuxiang smiled. I also want to kill Mo Tianyun. Su Butong coughed twice and said, if all of you attack. If I don't attack, I'm afraid you'll beat me up. GMO forced a smile and said, among these cousins I don't like Mo Tianyun. However, this matter. I cannot interfere. I can only withdraw. The 5 of them expressed their understanding of GMO's choice. If GMO also clamored to attack, this guy was simply inhumane. No matter what kind of conflict he had with Mo Tianyun, after all, blood was thicker than water. If I need you to attack, I won't be polite. Chu Yang said softly. Chu Yang was very satisfied and touched by their choice. But to deal with Mo Tianyun, I still have to plan carefully. After all, how could someone who could suppress someone like Mo Tianji for so long be an ordinary person? One must know that in his previous life, until Mo Qingwu's death, Mo Tianji had not fully grasped the power of the clan. It was not until a few years later that Mo Tianyun completely lost the power struggle with Mo Tianji. No matter how much he hated Mo Tianyun, he must not underestimate him. Just as Gu Duxing and the rest said, Chu Yang did not have any intention of underestimating the enemy. Kill he still had to kill. 7 days later, Chu Yang finally announced that they could go out. Under Dong Wuxiang's expectant gaze, Chu Yang took out the saber. Once the saber was unsheathed, even GMO, Gu Duxing and the rest could not help but hold their breaths. What kind of saber was this? If there was a king among sabers since ancient times, there was no doubt that this saber was the king. No adjectives could describe the power of this saber. Dong Wuxiang's hands trembled and his eyes instantly became moist. He gently stroked the saber as if he was caressing the lover of his dreams. My saber. Dong Wuxiang's voice was somewhat choked. He suddenly said as if he was making an oath, from today onwards this saber's name will be Wuxiang. Under this saber there will be no injuries. Wuxiang. Dong Wuxiang used his own name to name his saber. He held the saber that weighed 570 pounds in one hand. His eyes emitted a fanatical light. At this moment his face seemed to be shining. Thank you, big brother. I, Dong Wuxiang, will not let down this saber in this life. I will not let down my Wuxiang. Dong Wuxiang held the saber with one hand and knelt in front of Chu Yang. Without waiting for Chu Yang to stop him, he kowtowed 3 times. Then he stood up and suddenly roared to the sky, "The saber is the king. How can I, Dong Wuxiang, not be the king?" A piercingly cold saber aura suddenly surged out along with his long roar. Gu Duxing's eyes narrowed. The moment Dong Wuxiang held this saber, it was as if he had suddenly activated some kind of mysterious power in his body. At this moment, Dong Wuxiang was filled with a heroic spirit that soared to the heavens. He stood together with this saber in front of everyone. In everyone's eyes, these were clearly 2 sabers. 2 peerless treasured sabers. From this moment onwards, Wuxiang has finally opened the path of a saber master. Chu Yang's eyes focused on Dong Wuxiang. He looked deeply at him for a while and smiled with gratification. Gu Duxing's face revealed sincere admiration. The path of a saber master was like his own path of a swordsman. Those who did not open it could only be called saber master or swordsman. Those who opened it could be called guest. There was a difference of one word, but it was 2 completely different concepts. Guest was only one word, but the meaning behind it was thought-provoking. No matter where, as a guest, their status was nobler than that of an ordinary person. Therefore, saber master and swordsman, in the eyes of saber master and swordsman, was a kind of glory. Although Gu Duxing was obsessed with the way of the sword, he was not a swordsman yet. Although Dong Wuxiang's cultivation was lower than his, he had already become a saber master, which was equivalent to taking one step into the great door of the way of the saber. You don't have to be envious. Your path of a swordsman should be opening soon. Chu Yang smiled. It is the revered berserker sword technique that suppresses the opening of a swordsman. As long as you break through to revered sword artist and stop cultivating the revered berserker sword technique, you can become a swordsman in an extremely short period of time. I will break through in the shortest time possible. Gu Duxing's eyes shone. He gritted his teeth and said, no matter the cost. Chu Yang nodded and said, this time going to Great Zhao is not only a matter of business, but also a road of experience. As he spoke, he threw out 5 sabers and swords. Along the way, don't use your own weapons if you can. These are prepared for you. The 5 people were stunned. And this sword and this saber. Chu Yang took out 2 more sabers and swords and said, they also belong to the category of divine weapons. However, these 2 divine weapons are prepared for the Great Zhao Jianghu. I want this sword and saber to stir up a storm of blood in the Great Zhao Jianghu. Moreover, after stirring up a storm of blood, all the grudges and grievances will be gathered in the capital. The 5 people shuddered at the same time. The 5 of them were all experienced people. How could they not know the power of this stack of weapons? If this news were to spread, the capital of Great Zhao Jianghu would be filled with people of the Great Zhao Jianghu in an instant. GMO and Rui Butong, you 2 go first. As the vanguard, bring this saber to Great Zhao. Along the way, if you can fight, if you can kill, kill. In short, you must cause the biggest commotion. When you reach the capital, find an opportunity to throw this saber out at the most chaotic time. GMO and Rui Butong looked at each other and nodded. Their eyes were filled with fanaticism. These 2 people weren't afraid of things getting out of hand. They were extremely daring. Chu Yang had chosen these 2 as the vanguard to make the best use of them. Dong Wuxiang and Luo Kudi will be the second wave. Bring this sword and your mission will be the same as GMO and Rui Butong. Chu Yang said lightly. Dong Wuxiang nodded heavily. Luo Kudi's face turned bitter. Luo Kudi was always joking and active. Traveling thousands of miles with a block of wood like Dong Wuxiang, He would probably be bored to death. This was Chu Yang's choice. Their personalities complemented each other. Luo Kudi was lively, liked to stir up trouble, and was bossy and domineering. Yin Butong couldn't control him. If Luo Kudi and GMO were together, Chu Yang could guarantee that these two lawless people wouldn't be able to reach the continent capital. Other than Gu Duxing, only Dong Wuxiang could take down Meng Luo Kudi steadily. I will go with Gu Duxing. Chu Yang ignored Luo Kudi's resentful gaze. The two of us will be the third wave. We will go empty-handed. When you arrive, don't wait for us. As long as there is a disturbance and it reaches a certain level, you can return to the clan on your own. Chu Yang added. Then what about Mo Tianyun? Dong Wuxiang suddenly raised his head. I don't want to touch Mo Tianyun for now. Chu Yang said lightly, when it's time to touch him I will tell you. His eyes flashed with a strange color. Dong Wuxiang nodded slowly. When you return to the clan, go to the Mo clan and accompany Xiao Wu. Chu Yang took a deep breath. Her days in the clan will not be easy. If you can get her out, do your best to do so. GMO will be the main force in this matter. GMO patted his chest and said, Big brother, don't worry. I will definitely go. Chu Yang nodded and relaxed a little. He said, also, when I see you again, if I catch up to any of you in terms of cultivation, don't blame me for being rude. GMO and Luo Kudi called out at the same time, Big brother. Their hearts were sullen. With your flying speed, how can we be sure that you will not catch up to us? It settled then. During this period of separation, your main task is to improve yourselves in all aspects. Also, don't forget that you are all people of Heavenly Armament Pavilion. Chu Yang's eyes were deep. He said slowly, I look forward to the moment when we can roam the upper three heavens together. Chapter 228. Isn't it just great, Zhao? Is it very far? Do you really think I can't do anything to you? Chu Yang, you little bastard. Don't let me confirm your identity. At that time, even if the ancestor protects you, I will beat you 8 times a day. The man in blue gritted his teeth and snorted. He waved his hand and the big rock in front of him turned into dust. He angrily flew away, however he still admired him a little. This guy could foresee that he would come. This kind of intelligence was not Si Xiaoka. If he really is my nephew, then he is really an interesting guy. Unconsciously, he had some expectations for Chu Yang, beyond the Heavens sect. The weather is really cold. Little martial brother, why don't we have a drink? Wu Yunliang wore a black fox fur coat and came to Purple Bamboo Garden. During this period of time, Wu Yunliang would come over to visit. Meng Chao ran like peace and quiet. He was annoyed by this sect master, but there was nothing he could do. He tried to chase him away several times, but he could not. Not interested. Meng Chao Ran sat in the purple bamboo forest. Purple bamboo and white snow complemented his black hair and white robe. He looked handsome but lonely. No problem, I am interested. Wu Yunliang sighed and rubbed his hands. Come, tell me about your good disciple. Haha, you did not expect that your precious disciple would become such a famous person in such a short time, right? Wu Yunliang knew that Meng Chao Ran looked like he did not care about anything, but once he talked about Chu Yang, he would immediately become excited. Now that he had reformed beyond the Heavens sect a few times, he had made a few martial brothers treat him like that. 7th martial brother Kong Jingfeng was not here, he had sent him out. Junior martial brother Bao Kuanglei was also not here, he had sent him to Iron Cloud. Now the only person left in Beyond the Heavens sect who could talk to him was Meng Chao Ran, who did not care about anything. Why talk about Chu Yang? Meng Chao Ran pretended to be unhappy. Haven't you talked so much these past few days? Wu Yunliang secretly curled his lips. Sure enough, when he talked about his precious disciple, he became more talkative. Chu Yang is really not simple. Why don't I have such a disciple? Wu Yunliang sighed. The corners of Meng Chao Ran's mouth unconsciously curled into a smile. Cough cough. Want to have a drink or two? Niao Yunliang took the opportunity to ask. I really don't know what to do with you. Meng Chao Ran nodded helplessly. He then turned around to prepare the dishes. You clearly want to hear me praise your disciple a few more times, but you actually look unwilling. Niao Yunliang cursed in his heart and called out, why don't you just let your little disciple cook a few dishes? Do you have to do it yourself? Tan Tan is in closed-door training. Meng Chao Ran sighed. It would have been better if he hadn't mentioned Tan Tan. Now that he mentioned Tan Tan, he really felt helpless. Ever since Chu Yang had left, Tan Tan didn't have any other fun apart from looking in the mirror every day. He only practiced martial arts. He was a training maniac. Meng Qiaoran had reprimanded him several times, but Tan Tan had always agreed on the surface but disobeyed on the inside. So, he turned around and went back to practice martial arts. Left with no other choice, he smiled foolishly and said, "Master, don't you think I've become more handsome these few days?" Only the heavens knew how Meng Qiaoran felt. Looking at Tan Tan's extremely abstract face and hearing these narcissistic words, Meng Qiaoran could only wave his hand and say, "Go and practice martial arts. Don't ask me. Every time you ask, it's a torture for me as your master." If he told the truth, he was afraid of hurting him. If he didn't tell the truth, he was really choked. Ever since Tan Tan obtained the divine qi-gathering fish, he basically didn't stop practicing martial arts. Even Meng Qiaoran was surprised by his progress. These few months, Tan Tan had been making rapid progress. He had already broken through to 5th grade martial artist. Moreover, under the transformation of the divine qi-gathering fish, Meng Qiaoran was surprised to find that even Tan Tan's aptitude was imperceptibly changing. Meng Qiaoran had a feeling that his life's pride was having these two disciples. Meng Qiaoran naturally knew why Tan Tan was practicing so hard. Tan Tan wanted to increase his strength as quickly as possible so that he could help Chu Yang. As long as Tan Tan had this kind of motivation, how could Meng Qiaoran not support him? After a while, Meng Qiaoran came back with a few dishes and 2 jars of wine. "Eldest martial brother, next time you come, can you not come empty-handed? Every time you come, you have to carry a mouth on your shoulders. My little brother's finances are very poor." Wu Yunliang rolled his eyes. "As long as you go down the mountain and find your treasured disciple, you will definitely be able to bring back a mountain of gold. A rich man like you still has the face to complain about being poor in front of me." "Ah, his skin is really thick." Meng Qiaoran squinted his eyes in satisfaction and smiled. He then opened the clay seal of a jar of wine with his palm. Then he said while pouring wine, "Eldest senior brother, you've been roaming the Jianghu for so many years. But have you ever seen someone as strange as Tan Tan?" "I have never seen someone with such a personality." Wu Yunliang took a sip of wine. "If I had seen him, I would not have forgotten. Even in my dreams, I would have been scared awake." Meng Qiaoran sighed. He frowned and looked at the deep snow on the ground. After a while he said, "These days it seems to be a bit chaotic. I don't know why, but I always feel very depressed." "Depressed?" "That's right." Wu Yunliang coldly snorted and said, "Recently, 2nd brother, 3rd brother, 4th brother, and 5th brother have been sneaking around. Old brother and 8th brother have been swinging left and right. Little martial brother, have you ever thought that our Beyond the Heavens sect would end up like this?" Wu Yunliang laughed self-deprecatingly. "It's because you have been too harsh on them." Meng Qiaoran sighed softly. "You took advantage of the intersect competition and used it against the 3rd and 4th brothers' main disciples. Both sides suffered great losses. Some of them even died on the spot. You made all the efforts they had spent to train their disciples go down the drain. If they didn't have any resentment, how could it be possible? But you also know why I did it." Miao Yunliang said seriously, "You should know that last time I wanted to do the same to them. But considering the years of friendship, I did not have the heart to do it. Only killing a few of them was already lenient. I hope they will repent soon. Eldest martial brother, you don't have to be so hypocritical when talking to me." Meng Qiaoran raised his head and looked at his senior martial brother. "I know you did it for the good of the sect. I also know what they did. But you did not do it because you had a goal and you were not sure. It was not because you cared about affection. So in the future, don't talk about affection." Wu Yunliang smiled awkwardly and said gloomily, "Youngest martial brother, no matter what, I am still the sect master." "Ah." Meng Qiaoran sighed. "Have you ever seen such a thick-skinned sect master?" Wu Yunliang coughed twice and said, "Youngest martial brother, there is something I need to discuss with you." "What is it?" Meng Qiaoran was very vigilant. "What do you think of my daughter Chen Qian?" Miao Yunliang looked at Meng Qiaoran nervously. "Not bad. That child is not bad. Good aptitude, good temperament, good looks, and good figure." Meng Qiaoran was not stingy with his admiration for Niao Chen Qian. "Haha." Wu Yunliang's face lit up with joy. "You see Chen Qian and Chu Yang? Do they match?" "This." Meng Qiaoran twirled his beard and frowned. "Eldest martial brother, you and I do not need to worry about the matters of the younger generation. Plus the 2 of them are not here. For this kind of matter we need to ask for their opinion." He paused and said, "Even though Chu Yang is my little brother, I cannot make decisions for him." Wu Yunliang sighed and said, "All right, I won't force you. If I have the chance I will ask Chu Yang. I say you are a really boring master. Chu Yang has no father or mother. You can make all the decisions for him but you still. This is a matter of the younger generation. Without Chu Yang's approval I will not make any decisions for him. Meng Qiaoran coldly snorted, if something goes wrong, it will be a lifetime of pain. I do not want my little brother to be in pain for the rest of his life. All right. Niao Yunliang was silent for a while and said, youngest martial brother, I have something to ask of you. You have a lot of things to do today. Meng Qiaoran rolled his eyes. If there is a change in tea at Beyond the Heavens sect. Niao Yunliang said seriously, youngest martial brother, you do not need to worry about me. You need to escape with Tan Tan as soon as possible. Do you understand? Meng Qiaoran smiled deeply and said, it seems that something is going to happen at Beyond the Heavens sect? Yes. There are two big sects, Godly Saber Pavilion and Black Blood Union. There are also some mysterious experts rushing towards Beyond the Heavens sect. Niao Yunliang said seriously, this time Beyond the Heavens sect will face a tough battle. Tough battle? Meng Qiaoran stood up. His body was as straight as a sword. He said thoughtfully, eldest martial brother, what do you mean? What happened this time around was completely unexpected. Furthermore, it came so suddenly. Niao Yunliang said slowly, therefore I suspect, this time Diwu Qingro is venting his anger. He does not want to destroy Beyond the Heavens sect. The main target of the two big sects should be you and Tan Tan. Because of Chu Yang's actions in Iron Cloud, Diwu Qingro suffered heavy losses. Therefore, dealing with you is the same as dealing with Chu Yang. Wu Yunliang's expression was serious as he said, therefore I want you and Chu Yang to hide for a while. Hide for a while? Meng Qiaoran was startled. He smiled bitterly and said, eldest martial brother, I am afraid that it is already too late to hide. Yes, it is indeed too late. A cold voice suddenly sounded. The voice was sonorous like the sound of metal clashing. Wu Yunliang's face froze. He immediately relaxed and said with a smile, which friend has come? That voice said, Black Blood Union greets Master Niao. Immediately after, another voice came from the left, Godly Saber Pavilion's little brother greets Master Wu. With a schwa sound, two figures appeared from the front, back, left, and right. A total of 8 people formed a circle. The two on the right were dressed in black and had long swords at their waist. They were the people of Black Blood Union. The two on the left were dressed in red and had long sabers on their backs. They were the people of Godly Saber Pavilion. The 4 on the front and back were dressed in white and had sharp eyes. One of the white-clothed men laughed and said, Elder Brother Meng has discovered us as soon as we arrived here. This is indeed beyond my expectations. He sighed in admiration and said, Meng Qiaoran, isn't he King of Hellchu's master? Amazing, amazing. Meng Qiaoran said casually, I do not know what you are talking about. It doesn't matter if you know it or not. Today you are going to die. The man in white behind him had a murderous look in his eyes. With a clang sound, a long sword appeared in his hand. Meng Qiaoran, your disciple killed so many of our people. Today you will pay with your life. Chapter 229. Meng Qiaoran frowned and raised his head. His eyes were as sharp as swords. So it is, people from Golden Horse Riders Department. Senior Meng's eyes are indeed sharp. One of the men in white smiled coldly. Unfortunately, smart people don't live long. Haha, if you want me to pay with my life, you need to show some sincerity. Meng Qiaoran smiled indifferently, just talking is not enough. As he spoke, he clasped his hands behind his back and took a step forward. Wu Qingfeng, Wu Qingyun, there are only the two of you here and you can be considered acquaintances. What, aren't you going to introduce yourselves to us? The two people he called out were two thin men in black from Black Blood Union. Their faces were very similar. They were a pair of brothers. Brother Meng, we are also very unwilling to make an enemy out of you and even more unwilling to kill you. However, we can't do anything about that disciple of yours. Wu Qingfeng twirled his beard as he spoke hypocritically. Brother Meng, you don't need to delay and wait for reinforcements. Beyond the Heavens sect's first garden has already been attacked. Wu Qingyun smiled evilly, it's just that we are taking special care of Brother Meng. Then the two brothers smiled and looked at Wu Yunliang and Meng Qiaoran in front of them. They wanted to see panic or anger on the two's faces. That would be a matter of joy and worry for them. However, Meng Qiaoran's expression was indifferent. Even his eyes did not change. Wu Yunliang's face was still gentle. His eyes seemed to be smiling like spring water. He did not care at all. Aren't you worried? Wu Qingfeng asked in surprise. Is there any use in worrying? Wu Yunliang smiled casually. People who deserve to die will die. Sooner or later they will die. You will die if you are worried. You will die if you are not worried. With your intelligence, do you understand what this sect master is saying? You are courting death. The two Wu brothers shouted angrily at the same time. You are indeed worthy of being an important person of Beyond the Heavens sect. Let me introduce myself. I am Sun Jian. This is my younger brother Sun Feng. We are both 5th grade saber great masters of Godly Saber Pavilion. He said in a clear voice. Gentlemen, don't. This brother is truly a master. Wu Yunliang dragged out the word, don't, and said in a strange tone. Sun Jian and Sun Feng's faces turned the same color as their clothes. As for these 4 from the Golden Horse Riders department, there's no need to introduce them. Meng Chao Ran casually said, the 4 of you are revered martial artists. You really think highly of us? Wrong. A voice laughed softly. How can 4 revered martial artists deal with King of Hell Chu's master? At the very least there should be 8 of you. Following this voice, another 4 white-robed men slowly walked in from outside. 3 men and 1 woman. 8 revered martial artists and 4 zone-level experts. Meng Chao Ran and Wu Yunliang's pupils shrank. If there were only these people, the 2 of them were confident that they could escape. However, among the 4 people who had appeared at the end, 2 of them had powerful auras. They were peak martial honorables. Of the 2, Wu Yunliang had the highest cultivation, but he was only an 8th grade revered martial artist. How were they going to fight this battle? Little martial brother, how many years has it been since the 2 of us joined hands against an enemy? At this moment, Wu Yunliang let out a long laugh. His mood suddenly soared. What? Could it be that big martial brother is interested today? Meng Chao Ran smiled faintly. How about we join hands and fight again today? Wu Yunliang stroked his beard and smiled. Otherwise, it would be a waste of all the good wine you brought out. All right. Meng Chao Ran chuckled. Big martial brother is really a drunkard. How about this? Kill 1 person and drink 1 cup. How about it? The 2 brothers laughed at the same time. Their laughter was relaxed and carefree. Facing a powerful enemy, the 2 of them did not seem to care at all. Go. Kill Meng Chao Ran. The leader of the black-robed revered martial artists waved his hand. His eyes emitted a cold light. At this moment, from the peak of Beyond the Heavens sect came the sound of battle cries. In the direction of the main peak, there was already billowing black smoke rising to the sky. Meng Chao Ran and Wu Yunliang stood side by side. Their faces were calm and emotionless. Wu Yunliang gave Meng Chao Ran a meaningful glance. Where's your disciple? Meng Chao Ran frowned, not out yet. Wu Yunliang raised his left eyebrow. Once the battle starts, quickly take your disciple and run. Meng Chao Ran's expression did not change. Good. They had been martial brothers for decades. They did not need to speak to each other to know what the other meant. Meng Chao Ran understood Wu Yunliang's meaning. The enemy's target is you. Diwu Qingro still needs me to complete his plan. Therefore I will be fine. As long as you run away I will be safe. At this moment, a strange sound came from the room with a bang. A dense aura suddenly dissipated. Meng Chao Ran and Wu Yunliang frowned. This is the aura of a breakthrough. Tan Tan had broken through at this critical juncture. The quality of a martial artist. Under normal circumstances, this would be a cause for celebration. But now, under the watchful eyes of 8 revered martial artists and 4 martial great masters, a small martial artist's breakthrough was not worth mentioning. Instead, it brought about a fatal disaster. There is another person? He broke through at this juncture? The leader of the revered martial artists in white had a faint smile on his face. He is really determined. The door creaked open. Tan Tan pushed open the door and came out. In a daze he ran over. Master, master, I broke through again. He suddenly stopped and said in a daze, guests came? Wu Yunliang's mouth twitched. This bastard, he came out at the wrong time. With your breakthrough, it is possible that your humble father's life will also be broken through here. Motherfucker, this place has already started to go all out and you still call for guests. Even if you don't have good eyesight, the price should not be this high. However, Meng Chao Ran knew the power of his disciple. He secretly praised, good disciple, you came out at the right time. Sure enough, the 12 people turned around at the same time. With one look, their eyes widened. My uncle, there is actually such an ugly person in this world. This person was quite young and had a childish look on his face. He was wearing a white coat with a red floral pattern and a pair of purple shorts. In such a cold weather, the hairs on his calves were exposed like weeds growing out of them. He wore a refined scholar's hat on his head. As for his appearance, it was exactly like a poem. One ear is big, the other is small. One ear is fanned forward, the other is pulled back. One eye is big, the other eye is small. One eye is like a copper bell, the other is triangular. One eyebrow is thick, the other is thin. One eyebrow pierces the heavens, the other is propped up on the ground. The bridge of his nose is like a jade pillar, completely separating the two eyes. His face is comparable to a silver platter, and his cherry lips are truly alluring. As for the sound, it lingered in the air for 3 days. It was as if a starving wolf was raping a male duck. Furthermore, the male duck was crying out miserably. The hungry wolf was also howling like it was about to give birth to a female duck. The 12 people shuddered at the same time. In this world there is actually such a weirdo. He saw so many people staring at him, but he didn't realize that he was in danger at all. His first action was to pull out a mirror from his bosom with a schwa sound. He looked left and right and said happily, "No wonder you guys are looking at me with such adoration. It turns out that I've become more handsome." With a gulp, the 14 people swallowed their saliva at the same time. The only female revered martial artist almost vomited. She pointed at this monster with a trembling finger. You, very handsome, right? Tan Tan raised his hand and flipped his hair in a charming manner. He winked and said, "Beauty, it is a pity that you are a little old. Otherwise I might have." You know. This female revered martial artist was so angry that her eyes turned black. She finally stomped her foot. Evil creature. But at this time Meng Chao Ran, who had been standing still, suddenly moved. His white robe flashed and he rushed out from the crowd like lightning. Fleeting snow cloud steps was fully used. Snow accumulated in the clouds. It was frightening in the sky. It was neither advancing nor retreating. Especially when the 12 people were stunned at the same time, it gave Meng Chao Ran an excellent opportunity. The moment Meng Chao Ran made his move, Wu Yunliang's body spun. The snow in the sky spread out with a puff sound. The snow around him was scattered into the air. This time he poured the power of the golden body into it. Within a radius of 300 to 400 feet, there was no one to be seen. The 12 martial artists cursed at the same time and chased after Meng Chao Ran. They were full of regret. Why were they stunned just now? This was not their fault. The main reason was that Tan Tan's appearance was too unexpected. It was true. The 12 of them swore in their hearts at the same time. Even if they saw a ghost in the dark, they wouldn't be stunned or even blink their eyes. But this person in front of them, not fainting, was already quite good. Everyone realized, not only can being beautiful be used as a weapon, being ugly can also be used as a weapon. Moreover, it was still devastatingly beautiful. Meng Chao Ran flashed past like a meteor amidst the shouts of people. He grabbed Tan Tan's waist with his left hand. Then he didn't stop. He immediately turned his head and faced the 12 people who were rushing towards him. He rushed towards the purple bamboo forest. At the same time a cold aura flashed. A long sword appeared in his hand. It was still fleeting snow cloud steps. This was beyond everyone's expectations. Everyone thought that Meng Chao Ran wanted to take his disciple and leave immediately. They used all their strength to chase after him. Who would have thought that he would come back? The sword light flashed like lightning in the snowy fog. 2 blood-curdling screams resounded in the sky. Then bright flowers of blood scattered in the fog. 2 explosive sounds were heard. Meng Chao Ran let out a muffled groan. Then he grabbed Tan Tan and broke into the purple bamboo forest with his sword. "Go!" Wu Yunliang shouted in a low voice. Suddenly, in the snowy fog, there was the sound of palms hitting each other. More than 5 people groaned at the same time. Immediately after, the snow in the purple bamboo forest flew out like an avalanche, mixed with the dreamy and illusory purple bamboo. "How dare you!" The middle-grade martial saint roared furiously like thunder in the clear sky. Suddenly, a huge force spread out. The snow in the air flew up as if it had met with a hurricane. The scene was clear and bright. Chapter 230. In the purple bamboo forest, the purple bamboos were still swaying. The purple bamboos were still floating in the air like rain. However, Meng Chao Ran and Wu Yunliang had already disappeared without a trace. On the battlefield where everyone was fighting, the ground was covered in blood and flesh. 2 people were lying on the ground, Black Blood League's Wu Qingfeng and Wu Qingyun brothers. Every single one of them was killed with a single blow to the throat. Among the remaining 10 people, Sun Jian and Sun Feng's faces were pale with blood dripping from the corners of their mouths. 2 other revered martial artists from Golden Horse Riders Department were also pale with disheveled hair. The female revered martial artist's face was red. She vomited blood. The 2 sides only made contact for a moment. Meng Qiaoran desperately tried to break through the encirclement. Everyone tried their best to stop him. Wu Yunliang tried his best to stop him. They all tried their best to break up immediately after contact. This kind of unbelievable result was produced. The revered martial artist from Golden Horse Riders Department glared at Sun Jian. His eyes were as big as copper bells. It was as if he wanted to swallow Sun Jian alive. Didn't you say, this Meng Qiaoran was only a martial great master? A martial great master. Last year I was... Sun Jian panicked. He was also puzzled. A martial great master facing 8 revered martial artists? Could he break through? So fierce? Even though he had the advantage, it shouldn't be. Fuck your bullshit. Go to hell with your martial great master. The revered martial artist of the Golden Horse Riders Department was so angry that he slapped him hard in the face. He pointed at the mess on the ground and roared in a low voice, "Your revered martial great master is so fierce? Damn. A martial great master facing 8 revered martial artists and 4 martial great masters could kill 2 of them. Then he fought with the others until both sides were injured. How could he escape? Are you blind or blind?" Sun Jian was hit so hard that he danced and spun in a circle. The sky was full of stars. He covered his mouth and mumbled, "No. No, the facts are in front of you. Why can't you fight?" The revered martial artist kicked him away. "Trash. Just. Both of them are injured, they definitely won't be able to escape far." The revered martial artist from the Golden Horse Riders Department waved his hand and the 8 of them chased into the purple bamboo forest. There was one thing that this revered martial artist did not say. In the snowy land he did not know if it was Wu Yunliang or Meng Qiaoran, but the result was that his wrist was almost broken. Even now his palm was still numb. His chest was also aching. That was why he was so angry at the false report. However, he didn't know that these 2 saber grandmasters of the Godly Saber Pavilion were telling the truth. Meng Qiaoran was a martial great master a year ago or even half a year ago. However, Meng Qiaoran discovered that his progress had become even faster after he had obtained Chu Yang's body refining method. In fact, it seemed as if his progress would never end. In fact, his cultivation had increased by 1 grade in just half a year. This was absolutely unimaginable in the past. The current Meng Qiaoran was already a 5th grade revered martial artist. Moreover, his martial power was much purer than other revered martial artists of the same level. Even Wu Yunliang had increased his cultivation to 8th grade revered martial artist thanks to him. The Golden Horse Riders Department's operation this time was arranged by Jing Menghun. He specifically sent 2 revered martial artists and a 3rd grade revered martial artist to carry out this mission. Based on the principle of a mountain smashing a mosquito, 1 strike was enough to shatter Meng Qiaoran's body and bones. However, they definitely did not expect the situation to take such a turn. Even so, the strength of the 8 people from the Golden Horse Riders Department far exceeded Meng Qiaoran and Wu Yunliang. The situation was still not optimistic. The purple bamboo forest was like an ocean, and the white snow was like a desert. 2 figures were running as fast as they could. "How are you?" Wu Yunliang asked in a low voice as he ran. "I suffered some internal injuries." Meng Qiaoran's face was flushed, but his eyes were still firm. "Me too." Wu Yunliang snorted. "I did not expect these people to be so difficult to deal with. Even when they were out of our expectations, they still managed to injure both of us. If they were fully prepared, I am afraid that today we would have. Little martial brother, when you find a safe place, you hide inside and do not come out." The main meaning of Ji Yunliang's words was the last sentence. He knew Meng Qiaoran's temperament and also knew Meng Qiaoran's feelings for Beyond the Heavens sect. If Meng Qiaoran was impulsive and jumped out, it would be over. "I know the severity of the situation." Meng Qiaoran snorted, "But what about you? After this incident at Beyond the Heavens sect, I will wait until spring comes and the flowers bloom before heading to Iron Cloud." Wu Yunliang said, "Regarding this matter, let those who are not firm disperse first. Otherwise they will be a disaster. Plus we cannot protect them right now. If they disperse, then our Beyond the Heavens sect will only be left with those who are against separation and those who are loyal to the sect. Wouldn't that be?" Meng Qiaoran suddenly staggered and immediately steadied himself. Earlier, when he used his long sword to kill the two great martial artists, he also exchanged a palm strike with the revered martial artist. His internal organs were shaken and his injuries were not light. Don't worry, I have my ways. Wu Yunliang frowned. You are still trying to show off. He took Tan Tan from Meng Chaoran's arms and ran while holding him. Behind them, they could already hear the sound of shouting. The pursuers were getting closer and closer. What is this? Wu Yunliang felt as if he was touching something round in Tan Tan's arms. A fish tank. Meng Chaoran said in a low voice. Tan Tan raised a fish. Raised a fish. Wu Yunliang almost cursed it out loud. At such a critical moment he is still holding a fish tank? Is this not courting death? He reached out to throw it away. This is the divine qi gathering fish. Meng Chaoran rolled his eyes. You want to throw it away? Wu Yunliang's hand retracted as if he had been electrocuted. Even though he was running against the biting cold wind, his eyes were still wide open. Divine qi gathering fish? It is this treasure? Why else do you think Tan Tan and I, master and disciple, could improve so quickly in half a year? Meng Chaoran snorted. No wonder. No wonder. Wu Yunliang sighed again and again. So there is such a treasure. Not bad, not bad. At such a time he suddenly exclaimed, could it be that this little guy came out to scare people on purpose? Otherwise, why would he bring the divine qi gathering fish out? You think my disciple is stupid? Meng Chaoran sighed helplessly. This sect master's head really needs to be kicked. He has become so muddle-headed. Behind them came the sound of something breaking through the air. The friction between clothes and the air created a popping sound. Obviously, someone had caught up. I will stop him. You go quickly. Wu Yunliang shouted in a low voice. He suddenly used his strength and threw Tan Tan's body away. Tan Tan flew forward like he was riding the clouds. He hurriedly said, no matter what, we cannot let Chu Yang get hurt because of you. You must know the importance of this matter. He had not finished speaking when he suddenly stopped. He spun on his toes, creating a whirlwind of snow. His body flew backward like a hurricane. Meng Chaoran did not look back. His body flew forward as if his feet did not touch the ground. When Tan Tan's body was about to hit the ground, Meng Chaoran grabbed him and quickly ran toward the cliff. At this moment he did not have time to say anything to Wu Yunliang. But who was more important? Both of them knew. The foundation of Beyond the Heavens sect could be thrown away. Their lives could be thrown away, but Chu Yang could not be hurt because of Meng Chaoran. The consequences of being hurt in the heart would be enough to cause Chu Yang to suffer a crushing defeat in the battle against Diwu Qingro. Diwu Qingro did not send people to kill Meng Chaoran just to vent his anger. If a person is blinded by hatred, even if it is a normal decision, he will lose his composure. For King of Hell Chu, this was fatal. Once Chu Yang was defeated, Beyond the Heavens sect would no longer have a chance to rise again. In iron clouds, millions of people would fall under the iron hooves. Therefore, even though Meng Chaoran was not afraid of death, he could only run. The entire Beyond the Heavens sect was in flames, but Meng Chaoran could not go in any of these directions. This time, Golden Horse Riders Department was the main force to kill Meng Chaoran. Black Blood League and Saintly Saber Pavilion were all out to besiege the other bases of Beyond the Heavens sect. Behind him, Wu Yunliang's angry shouts were getting farther and farther away. The sound of clothes fluttering in the wind was faintly heard from all directions. The distance to the cliff seemed to be unreachable. Master, put me down. You can run a bit faster. Tan Tan did not dare to struggle. He hurriedly begged, put me down. Put me down. Master, I beg you. Meng Chaoran's palm hit the back of his neck. Tan Tan immediately fainted. Meng Chaoran ran as fast as he could. His eyes showed a determined look. He thought to himself, if I, Meng Chaoran, abandoned my own little brother, would I still be Meng Chaoran? With this thought, a wave of arrogance rushed up from his chest. At this moment his speed increased by a lot. However, the enemy behind him had also discovered his tracks. He is over there. Quickly chase him. If you kill Meng Chaoran, you will have done a great service to the Prime Minister. Cut off Meng Chaoran's head and show it to King of Hell Chu. This is the result of opposing our Golden Horse Riders Department. I wonder what King of Hell Chu's expression will be like at that time? I think it will be very interesting. Meng Chaoran coldly snorted. He turned a deaf ear to these voices that were deliberately trying to distract him. He only focused on running. Even though he tried his best, he knew that he would not be able to reach the cliff before being caught up. None of the people chasing after him were weaker than him. If it was one-on-one he would not be afraid. If it was one-on-two he might be able to handle it. But if it was one against so many, he did not have the slightest bit of confidence. Could it be that in the end he would have to die here? Chapter 231. The sky was covered with dark clouds and the cold wind was howling. Snow started to fall again and it got heavier and heavier. Eventually the whole world was covered in white. Novel Meng Charon's expression was indifferent, but his heart couldn't help but think of a figure at this moment, a face full of love. Choo-choo. Meng Charon's body didn't stop, but his heart was in pain. Will I never see you again? Scenes of the past suddenly flashed through his mind at this moment. Wind and rain can't wash away the scars of the heart, and the vicissitudes of life can't extinguish the wounds of love. Don't speak of eternity lightly, only when separated can one see the desolation. Meng Charon's mind entered a wonderful state. Although his body was running at full speed, the wind and snow hit his face, but he didn't seem to feel it at all. Everlasting memory, pledge of eternal love, I would rather seek everlasting love. A spring dream in this life, I watched Jianghu soar. On the road of 3 lives I sang the roots of love. A lifetime of bitterness, I shared it with you. Don't promise each other, my heart was broken. Heaven, our souls sailed together. Unknowingly Meng Charon's face became sad, sad and persistent. The morning dew and the morning rush, difficult to meet in heaven and earth. Cut off the night of heaven, life and death in my arms. Choo-choo, I haven't cut off the night of heaven, I can't die. Softly reciting the oath he made 20 years ago when he was forced to separate from his beloved wife, Meng Charon's heart suddenly surged with a fierce force. Ye family, you said I'm not worthy of your family's young miss, and forcibly separated us. I haven't taken back my wife, how can I die? If I die, won't you be satisfied? If I die, what will happen to Choo-choo? Meng Charon roared and his speed increased again. The few people chasing behind him were all in disbelief. Although the cultivation of the person in front was similar to theirs, he was already injured, his internal organs were shaken, and he was carrying a person of more than 100 pounds. They couldn't catch up? What kind of logic was this? Logically speaking, even if he risked his life he should be dead by now, right? Everyone was puzzled, but they still accelerated to catch up. His silhouette flickered and disappeared in a flash. Behind him, the snow fell and covered his footsteps. Snowflakes filled the entire sky. Chuyang and Gudu went on the road at top speed. They had been walking for 7 days. Chuyang had been somewhat taciturn during this journey. The two of them cultivated as they walked in the snowy land. Time passed extremely quickly. Chuyang didn't speak. Gu Duxing was a man who cherished his words like gold. Naturally, he was even more of a taciturn person. For the next 3 days, Chuyang saw some people using dogs to pull sleds. He thought it was fun, so he also bought a big one. He and Gu Duxing sat on it. 2 healthy horses galloped wildly. It was actually faster than riding a horse. He couldn't help but exclaim in satisfaction. Moreover, the snowy ground was flat, so the two of them could sit on it and cultivate. Just like that, they finally arrived at the wilderness on this day. Seeing that it was already late, they chose a call and led the horse in. Gu Duxing built a wall of snow and Chuyang used the power of ice to condense the wall. After entering, it was actually warm and comfortable. 1 more day and we will arrive at my sect, beyond the heavens sect. Chuyang leaned against the snow wall and squinted his eyes. How is the scenery? Gu Duxing was rarely in high spirits. Why don't we go up and take a look? I also want to go sightseeing. Of course, Gu Duxing wasn't sightseeing. He just saw that Chuyang was a little homesick, so he added fuel to the fire. This feeling of returning home was the most heartwarming. Chuyang must be very eager to see his master and junior brother. Well, when you see my junior brother, you must be calm. Chuyang thought of Tan Tan and couldn't help but laugh. With my willpower, there aren't many people who can scare me. Gu Duxing looked disdainfully. Well, Duxing, how far do you think GMO and the others can go? Chuyang pondered and asked. Don't worry. They are far inferior to you when it comes to wits and schemes. But, when it comes to causing trouble and stirring up trouble, even if there are 100 of you on horseback, you won't be as good as these playboys. Gu Duxing said with certainty, I dare to bet that before you even reach the province, this wave will sweep through Great Jiao. He paused and said, and this is in such cold weather. If it was a warm spring day, those 4 people would definitely be able to poke a hole in the blue sky. Chuyang tilted his head and thought for a while. He said, you are right. Especially GMO and Luo Kudi. These 2 people are simply the ancestors of causing trouble. The two of them are just causing trouble. It's nothing much. Gu Duxing sighed, you are still wrong. I dare to bet that when Miao Butong left, he only had 100 taels of silver on him. But when he reaches the province he will definitely be a millionaire. If he doesn't, I will jump into the latrine to take a bath. That bad asterisk? Chu Yang's eyes widened. During this time, because of you, he didn't do anything in Ironcloud Citadel. He hasn't stolen anything in almost 2 months. He is about to go crazy. Gu Duxing rolled his eyes. I see. Chu Yang laughed loudly. He suddenly remembered that when he first entered Ironcloud Citadel, he disguised himself as the great thief Ma Tuo. He couldn't help but be overjoyed. As for Dong Wuxiang, under normal circumstances this guy doesn't cause trouble. But when he does, someone will definitely die. Gu Duxing sighed, when Dong Wuxiang attacks there are no survivors. I'm really curious. How did Dong Wuxiang's father come up with this name? Could it be that when the little meatball was just born, he could tell that his nature was bloodthirsty and just named him Wuxiang? What a talent! Chu Yang sighed. Talent? Dong Wuxiang? I am talking about Dong Wuxiang's father. This kind of ability to not know the future is really amazing. If the name was given through the belly, then it would be even more amazing. Chu Yang sighed. So when Dong Wuxiang causes trouble, it is basically the kind that will not stop until one of us dies. Gu Duxing said with a headache. Look at how you are so compassionate. Chu Yang said strangely, could it be that you, Gu Duxing, are not like that? May I ask, revered Sword Gu, how many survivors have you had under your sword? Gu Duxing opened his mouth and was stunned for a while. Then he said with shame, so there are no survivors under me? Chu Yang was speechless. During this period of time, Gu Duxing had successfully broken through to first-grade revered sword artist. He was feeling proud of his success. He also stopped cultivating the revered berserker sword technique. When Chu Yang was comprehending the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, Gu Duxing successfully joined in. He actually got a free ride and directly broke through to the peak of first-grade revered sword artist. This fortuitous encounter made Gu Duxing and Chu Yang a little dumbfounded. They did not dare to believe it. Under Chu Yang's coaxing and pestering, he extorted a set of revered sword artist cultivation methods from the sword spirit. Now he was thinking of what kind of person to lend to Gu Duxing. After all, each of these extremely mysterious things that he took out could cause a commotion in the continent. But he could continuously take out, and this matter was not easy to explain. Boss, tell me about your junior martial brother. What kind of tragic appearance does he have? Gu Duxing could not sleep at night. He could not help it, these days he was too excited. Ah, this small. Chu Yang beamed with joy and said excitedly, speaking of which, in the middle of the night, Gu Duxing cultivated for a while and suddenly asked, Chu Yang, GMO went to Great Jiao to find that person. There shouldn't be any problems, right? Why do I keep having this feeling? What feeling? Chu Yang immediately became vigilant. I keep having this feeling that there is someone behind Diwu Qingro. Gu Duxing pondered and rubbed his temples. These days I have been thinking about the conflict between Butian Pavilion and Golden Horse Riders Department. The more I think about it, the more I feel that Diwu Qingro does things with the style of a clan. Style of a clan? Chu Yang's expression became serious. This was a field that he did not touch upon. When Gu Duxing mentioned this feeling, Chu Yang suddenly felt a chill in his heart. Simply put, Diwu Qingro is using a method that accommodates heaven and earth. He is using the method of a true clan to settle the disputes between the countries of the continent. He strives to make everything simple. Gu Duxing said seriously, for example, every big clan has a secret hall. It is the epitome of Golden Horse Riders Department. It specializes in dealing with things that are inconvenient and not honorable. The most obvious thing about Golden Horse Riders Department is that it is controlled by a single person and not by the government. Gu Duxing said seriously, this is a completely different place from the Imperial Court. It is also the biggest difference between Jianghu and the Imperial Court. But Diwu Qingro has perfectly integrated it. The first reason is that Great Zhao's ruler is weak, but the most important reason is Diwu Qingro's background. Gu Duxing said slowly, you should realize that, in a general sense, no matter how weak a king is, he will not be helpless against a prime minister, no matter how powerful the prime minister is. For such a situation to occur, there is only one possibility. That is, the control of a huge power. And it is not that this ruler cannot go against Diwu Qingro, it is that he cannot go against this power. Gu Duxing said slowly, this is only my guess. Chu Yang frowned and started to ponder in silence. Diwu Qingro came from a clan? Was there someone controlling the battle in the lower three heavens? These were all questions that Chu Yang had never thought about. Gu Duxing came from a clan. If it was anyone else, they would not have considered this question. However, Gu Duxing had completely put himself in Chu Yang's shoes and looked at this matter from another angle. So he came to a different conclusion. From this angle, it was somewhat beyond Chu Yang's scope of understanding. But Chu Yang faintly felt that this was not without reason. All of this was waiting for him to prove it. The next morning the sky was dark and gloomy. The cold wind whistled and became softer and softer. After walking for less than 100 miles, it actually started to snow. Moreover, it was getting heavier and heavier. Slowly, it covered the sky and the earth, making it seem like a hazy snow was falling. The whistling cold wind mixed with the snowflakes blew against their faces. It almost froze their mouths and noses. There is actually a fire in such heavy snow? Chu Yang raised his head suspiciously and sniffed. Gu Duxing also raised his head and said thoughtfully, "It should be on the mountain nearby. Looking at the direction of the wind, it should be in front of us. It is on fire. The smell of fire is quite strong. It should not be a forest fire. It should be a building." You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.